All right, what's up? Friday, drive time. We're back on air after a strange day yesterday. I will tell you what went down as the show was supposed to be up at Soldier Hollow Golf Course, which is where I ended up. A little power outage here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah, affecting about, 4 or 5 blocks here downtown. So Broadway Media, the power went out. Simple as that. So we were not on air yesterday. The 2 days prior to that, we were in Dallas for Big 12 Media Days. So I've not spoken to you on this radio show since Monday, and now it's Friday. Happy Friday. Weekend time. Congrats. You made it to the weekend. Hope you have something fun planned. I don't know if you want to get outside. It's about 95 degrees today. I think it's going to be 105 degrees on Sunday. So maybe this is a weekend to kind of chill out a little bit. But happy Friday. A lot to do on a Friday show. Thank you for making this radio show a part of your day today and every day. Spence Checketts behind the mic, Porter Larson behind the glass producing the show today. A ton to do, a lot to get to since we haven't really done a radio show since Monday. So we'll kind of look back on Big 12 Media Days. A 48-hour experience in Frisco, Texas. Don't plan a vacation in Frisco. Let me just go ahead and say that right out of the gates. Go see a Cowboys game and then, just get out of town. Not a lot going on there. It was a weird vibe. It was a really strange vibe. This is a conference right now just with a ton of drama. I used the term a couple of different times. There were some like Regina George Mean Girls, you can't sit with us vibes going on with the Texas Tech stuff, some weird lines of questioning, a really weird Brett Yormark like preacher/politician walking across the stage introductory press conference. That was weird. I think he handled himself poorly, quite frankly. The whole thing was just kind of odd. And now Monster Energy drinks for everybody, which, you know what? Just don't drink that stuff. Appreciate the sponsor for the conference. Kansas then announced that they're going to have a cryptocurrency patch on one side and a Monster Energy drink Big 12 patch on the other of their football jerseys. But tried to have a good time down there. We were able to visit, of course, with all of the Utes and all the BYU folk. It was BYU day 1. It was Utah day 2. Reminder, if you missed any of that and you're just kind of aching for some college football sound, I would direct you to ESPN700sports.com, where all of the sound over the course of the past, or I should say that 48-hour experience where we did about 15, 16 hours of radio over 2 days. I think there are upwards of 50, 60 interviews on ESPN700sports.com, if you missed it, including Morgan Scalley, including Mark Harlan, and including Brian Santiago and Kalani Sitake and Devin Dampier, Wayshawn Parker, a bunch of other players and coaches. Everybody was great as far as availability. A lot of really talented, good SIDs doing an excellent job of providing some good information about their programs and then helping us out corralling some players and coaches for interviews. Shout out to Sean O'Connell, not on air today, but a excellent co-host for me over the course of a couple of shows. Alonzo, our man on the ground, facilitating interviews and making sure we stayed on air. And then, of course, Porter back here producing the whole thing over the course of a couple of days. So we'll look back on Big 12 Media Days, some of the storylines, what people had to say about Utah football, the first year from Morgan Scalley, BYU football. I believe it's year 12 now for Kalani. And a lot of people believe with the unknown nature of the deal with Texas Tech, BYU, the team to beat. And a lot of the prediction markets and Vegas odds kind of going in that way as well. So we'll do some college football on the show today on this Friday afternoon. Get you ready for the weekend. Get the weekend started out the right way. Also, since you and I last spoke, the U.S. men's national team got their asses kicked by Belgium. I mean, it was embarrassing. It wasn't even close. And I'm not here for the whole, like, hey, mission accomplished. No, like the group stage was fun. They didn't beat anybody good. And as soon as they went up against somebody good, Same old U.S. men's national team performance. I think it was inexcusable. I think it was embarrassing. Now, I don't want to do the whole diagnostic, let's fix the youth soccer system to make sure that we can keep up with Spain, Belgium, what have you. Those two teams playing right now, by the way. 48th minute in Los Angeles, and Spain and Belgium are tied at 1. Belgium got an equalizer right before the halftime whistle. Spain took an early 1-0 lead. But the U.S. men's national team is done. World Cup rolls along. It has been a really, really awesome tournament, but I think those players embarrassed themselves in the knockout round against Belgium, and they deserve to go home. And maybe Malik Tillman is the only one that deserved to fly private on the way home. Everyone else, Sky West, you're on standby, and then maybe you get home eventually. RSL is going to get back at it here pretty quick. MLS has been on a break for the World Cup, so we'll get you up to date on what's next for them. We did talk at RSL last night on KMYU. Ian Joy was my guest as Dunny continues to be on World Cup duty. Ian was a great player for a long time, played for RSL, and now he's with CBS Sports and does a lot of MLS analysis and world soccer analysis as well. So you can check that out, soccer fans. We talked a lot of World Cup. We talked a lot of RSL with Ian Joy last night at 10:35 on KMYU. Also, podcast is out. Mark Harlan and Matt Webb. We will bring that to you in this space. Mark, of course, athletic director of the University of Utah, and Matt Webb is the new CEO of Crimson Brand Partners, the new company, kind of offshoot that Utah has created in conjunction with their partnership with Ocho Capital. So got to know Matt a little bit. He and his wife and kids are new here to Salt Lake. Talked a lot about what they're trying to accomplish to improve your consumer experience as a Utah football or basketball fan. So that's on the Reality Check podcast space. You can find that wherever you get your shows. And again, we'll bring that into this space as well, as we do every single week. So it's been a really busy week. It's kind of nice just to be back in studio after we were knocked off air yesterday as a result of some power outages downtown. So shout out to our good friends at the UGA, where the State Am is going on at Soldier Hollow right now, and we're going to do some live hits up at Soldier Hollow to kind of give us the lay of the land as far as what's going on with the longest-running golf tournament in the history of this country, which is the Utah State Am. So there you go. Summer League has gone to Las Vegas, baby, and we're going to go to Vegas today as well to get the latest. We saw Darren Peterson and Ace Bailey go up against each other last night. Darren wasn't as good as he was over the first two games, but we're going to talk about it. I think the early returns with his Summer League stuff has been really, really exciting. The NBA offseason has kind of quieted down since we last spoke. The LeBron domino still needs to fall. A lot of people are guessing that it is Cleveland. I don't have any idea what the deal will be there. The Jazz signed Mo Bamba since you and I last spoke. That makes 15 players under contract. So chances are, barring some sort of random trade or something, the Jazz are probably done. This is probably the group you're going to see in the upcoming season. But a lot of storylines still out there. Jalen Duren's still out there. In case you didn't hear, the NBA is not allowing the Clipper-Raptor trade to go through yet because they're continuing to investigate the situation with the cap circumvention from the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard. My guess is ultimately that still will go down, but it's on hold while the NBA continues this investigation or whatever you're calling it. It's taking so long, and it's to the point where it's somewhat embarrassing. So the NBA offseason news has been fast and furious, but it has tamped down just a little bit. So we'll talk Summer League. We'll talk Darren Peterson. We'll talk some expectations for the Jazz now that we kind of know what their team is going to look like on this Friday afternoon. Hot day outside, 95, sunny. It's July in Utah. We live in the desert, so it makes sense that it's warm as it is today. Our first guest will be Tony Parks, our buddy who joins us from time to time. He's the voice of the Bees. We'll jump around and do a little bit of everything with Tony today. I always enjoy when he's on the program. Sarah Todd, Deseret News, latest on the Utah Jazz. And Summer League, Darren Peterson versus A.J. DeBonsa. What did Sarah see? Is this the group for the Jazz moving forward? We'll bring in Sarah Todd today. Voice of the Utah Jazz is Craig Bolerjack. He's going to join us later on, and we are going to check in up at Soldier Hollow with Easton Folster friend of the program and executive director of the Utah Golf Association. So kind of a weird week. Appreciate your patience. Full show half show on Monday. Dallas Tuesday, Wednesday. Power outage Thursday. Back on Friday for a weekend edition of The Drive. Tony Parks, Sarah Todd, Easton Folster, Craig Bolerjack, me, Spence Checketts, all you, the great listeners, and that guy, Porter Larson.
Hello.
What'd you do yesterday when you found out we didn't have a show?
Hung out, drank some Monster.
There you go.
Nothing crazy.
How long did you stay in the studio?
Well, we got our power back probably when you were summiting Parley's Canyon. So once we decided to punt on the program, I walked home. It
was very awkward showing up and sitting down and getting ready to do the show with all of the UGA folk up there and then having to be like, yep, sorry, we tried. At least it was it's a beautiful drive through Midway, Soldier Hollow. What is Midday known for? Something in May, right?
Midway does Swiss Days.
Swiss Days, that's what it is.
They do the sheepdog competition, the World Championships of Sheepdogs.
I was looking for Swiss Days, but
it's part of that festivities.
So the sheepdog competition is part of Swiss Days?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. All right. Well, it was a lovely drive. I just felt bad. So showed up, said hello, tried to do the show, could not. I know you were producing with your hair on fire during Big 12 Media Days. Did you get this vibe that was it was like...
No, it was weird.
It was weird. It was dramatic. Yormark's opening presser, he sounded more like a evangelical preacher or somebody who was running for office as opposed to a college football commissioner. I don't know. Like, obviously you're producing. I've got my head down trying to do 8 hours of radio 2 straight days. So it's hard to really digest all the storylines. But again, it just felt like weird.
You mentioned the presser with Yormark, and then he just hightailed it out of there, right? He was there for what, like an hour or so? As the commissioner of this conference specifically, on this offseason specifically, I think you might want to stick around and at least shake a few hands and kiss some footballs. Babies.
Footballs work. There were no babies present,
right?
So you would have had to kiss footballs.
It was weird that that dynamic was there. There was apparently audio issues with the media asking questions, so they all sounded like they were drunk and tripping over their words, and they didn't figure it out over a whole 48-hour period, which back here in the studio was kind of hilarious. It was a little bit of a free-for-all. Most media days, you very much run through like a pretty regimented schedule. You know who you're going to get, when you're going to get them. You go through, and then everyone, heads out. This was, hey, sit down with us. Sit down here. Sit down there. So that was interesting to try to produce on that side of it. And then, the Monster deal, it's a brand partnership. I think the more interesting part to that for me is the money side. The Monster thing is, I've been watching Monster AMA Supercross since the days of Jeremy McGrath and Chad Reed. So I didn't have a visceral reaction to that side of it. But the money aspect of it is fairly interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to try to paint a picture here to start the show. I just missed the Pac-12. I just do. So George Kliavkoff, thanks a lot, dude.
And Larry.
Larry first. You're right. Larry begat George.
Larry.
I want to go biblical.
Larry Scott, truly drove that conference into the ground, and then George Kliavkoff showed up just in time to walk the gallows, essentially. Didn't do himself any justice, any favors by not doing the one thing which he was brought in to do, which was make partnerships with media brands and the like. And I miss many aspects of the Pac-12, most the formation of the conference and the road trips.
Yes, indeed. But the Big 12 is a landing spot that has allowed Utah a place to be for now. I can only speak for myself. I badly hope it's not a place to be forever. It's a weird conference, man. Just weird folk. All right, our first guest today will be Tony Parks. But before Tony stops by, courtesy of our good friends at Game Day Men's Health, it's time now for your opening tip. Now, if you have not taken advantage of the Game Day Men's Health offer that they're giving you as a listener on the show. Well, now's the time. It is now July. So if you set a New Year's resolution or an intention, as the kids say these days, to lose some weight or get back in shape, lose a lot of weight, get in better shape, whatever it is, you have over half the year, which is odd to even think about, to analyze whether or not you've been able to do it. So if you're having trouble with it, if you start and stop, if you find out like your energy is drained and then you stop working out, these guys can really help you out because they helped me out. And they're offering you the very same deal they offered me 3 years ago when I decided to go about this endeavor. Okay. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm in my late 40s now. Got to get back in shape. As you age, it's harder to do. Started the process within a couple of months. I had started and stopped. It wasn't working. I was running out of energy. And then I had a friend, just basically recommend Game Day Men's Health. And what you do is you go in for a free consultation. And as I always say, you should do that no matter what, because it costs you $0 and takes about 20 minutes out of your day. It's a little bit of blood work. Okay, so go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Schedule that. Cottonwood Heights, Bountiful, locations that are very accessible. You're going to go in there. They're going to take a little bit of blood. Takes about 20 to 30 minutes. They're going to go over your levels, and they might say, hey, you're doing great. High five. Take care. Or they might say, here's a level where you're doing really well, and then you're pretty deficient here. Have you ever tried, supplementing testosterone, which is what I do through them. I supplement testosterone, then I utilize peptides. If you've ever heard people talking about peptides, and you're like, wait, what is that? They'll walk you through it. But here's the kicker. If you decide to sign up and utilize their services, A, it's very effective, but B, it's very affordable because they're giving you 50% off. This is not like a 5% discount or send me your email and we'll give you 10% off. It's half off all year. And it makes it more affordable. It's what allows me to do it. And they're giving you the very same deal they give me. Free consultation, 50% off the first year of membership with our good friends at Game Day Men's Health. So go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. All right, as I referenced, we were supposed to be at Soldier Hollow yesterday where the Utah State Am is going on. The power went out downtown, so we were unable to do our show up there yesterday. But our guy, Paul Pugmire, joins us live on site. Paul, how hot is it up at Soldier Hollow?
It's actually reasonably pleasant. We're about 1,000 feet higher than Salt Lake, and it's a lovely little valley. It's a really nice day. We miss you, Spence.
I wanted to be up there, and then when I realized after trying to do the show that we could not do the show, I picked the wrong day to take my golf clubs out of my car because I could have at least hit some balls or something. But I was able to chat with Easton and eat some food and hang out. Obviously a great group. We're going to have Easton on a little bit later on. But set the scene, Paul. What's going on right now?
Right now, and this is really fun, the only mid-am player, the only not college player left in the field in the quarterfinals for the Elite Eight, Cameron Crawford, he is going to extra holes against BYU's Jackson Moss, and they are on 22. They're through hole number 22 now. They're moving on to hole 23, still tied, and it is just a knockdown, drag-it-out slog for these guys. Really fun to see.
What happened to my guy Steele? He was in the mix when I was up there yesterday. What happened to Steele?
Steele burns hot and burns cold. In the quarterfinal match, the round of 32 match, he went off and made a ton of birdies. And then in the round of 16, didn't quite work out as well for him. And he ran into David Lichty, who took him out in 17 holes.
So where are we at right now as far as the point in the tournament and what comes next?
Right now, we are just waiting on this extra innings match to complete the quarterfinals. The one of the semifinal matches has been established. It is Bowen Moss, plays at ASU and is the defending champion against KJ Otahengawe. KJ plays at Utah Tech. And so they will play in the one semifinal. And then Noah Moody plays at USU and is the son of Riverside Pro Chris Moody. he is in the other semifinal, and we're waiting to see whether his opponent will be Cameron Crawford or Jackson Moss. Some point here in the next few minutes, we will be down to the Final Four.
And then over the weekend, the golfers that advance, what's the format and what is it going to look like?
Sure. So the semifinals will be played this afternoon. They will establish the two finalists, and then the finalists go off at 8 in the morning, and they have a scheduled 36-hole final to determine the state am champ.
Is there a favorite or a couple of favorites right now, or are all these golfers playing pretty high level?
At this, once you get to this level, it's all so good. But the reality is, Bowen Moss, he is the defending champ, and he has a way of finding what it takes to get it done when he has to. So right now, I'd have to say it's Bowen Moss in the driver's seat.
Paul, Scotty Scheffler missed a cut. What's going on? Four year streak. Did I see that right?
Yeah, you did. And the thing I love the most about it is there are leaders of this golf tournament who are not inconsequential. Rory McIlroy is among them. But what is the headline? It's Scotty Scheffler misses cut. This goes back to the Tiger days where somebody can be leading the headline and the leading the tournament, and the headline is Tiger Woods has turkey sandwich for lunch. You know, it's just I love that it's still about Scotty.
All right, Paul. Well, we'll check in later. Give everyone my best and enjoy the State Am.
Sure will. Thank you, Spencer.
All right, Paul Pugmire, Utah Golf Radio. You can hear it every Saturday on this radio station. He'll talk about the Utah State Am going on at Soldier Hollow and the PGA Tour. All the latest storylines, including Scotty Scheffler missing a cut for the first time in 4 years, which is pretty hard to wrap your mind around. All right, we'll catch our first break of this Friday show. Thanks for making us a part of your Friday afternoon. We're going to bring in Tony Parks. He'll bat leadoff today. Then Sarah Todd, Easton Folster, Craig Bowlerjack. And we'll go from there right here on ESPN 700. NBA Summer League has moved to Las Vegas after a couple of fun nights at the Huntsman Center. NBA offseason news kind of calmed down a little bit. Still waiting for the LeBron domino to fall. Still waiting to see if the NBA is ever going to conclude their investigation into the Clippers for circumventing the salary cap with Kawhi Leonard. That Raptors trade is on hold. Feels like the Jazz are done after adding Josh Okogie and Mo Bamba. That leads them to 15 players. Big 12 media days. What are we going to start with our guy Tony Parks on a Friday afternoon? What's up, dude? How are you?
Not much, man. Just enjoying the Vinny C tour. You know, we're in Sacramento.
Stop it.
Big deal out here.
Fo-
Big deal, as you know.
FOMO much? A Vinny C tour? Oh man! Wait, you're in Sacramento right now for real? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time, man. I love it out here. I still have a ton of friends and family out in the East Bay, so they're going to stop by at some point during the weekend. That'll be a blast. And no, man, it's fun. All-Star break coming up right around the corner for Major League Baseball, and you know, just enjoying the summer, but keeping a great eye on everything that's been going on with the Summer League and obviously the World Cup. It's too bad Team USA had lost. I don't know. I was actually thinking about this. I'm not trying to be the negative Nelly about this, but when they were eliminated and there was this uproar, I was not really surprised. This isn't really a powerhouse in the sport. And I don't know if that's just me not knowing enough, and I'm okay with that. I don't follow the national team as closely. So I was kind of wondering what your thoughts were on that whole thing, because to me, the uproar, I'm going, well, I know, like, are we like Wisconsin, if you will, where we're good, but we're not Ohio State, Alabama, right? National championship level. So I didn't understand what the uproar was about.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I've always appreciated your enthusiasm and optimism, but did you say you love Sacramento? Did I hear you say you love Sacramento?
No.
All right,
I love the people that visit me.
All right.
I am not. No.
Yeah.
So I know I love the ballpark here. I got a lot of great memories here. So people are like, "Oh, you're really familiar with Sacramento?" I'm like, "I'm not. I couldn't tell you much about this area. I've just been to this ballpark because that's where we used to go, so we didn't have to cross the bridge, and it was much more family friendly and all that fun stuff." But no, I would not say I love Sacramento as a whole. Just love the experience and the people I see.
Fair enough. I just wanted one little point of clarification there, Tom. So here's what we deal with the World Cup. We deal with unserious people that focus on soccer once every 4 years and are like, why aren't we better at this? I'm like, well, you haven't been paying attention. You know, like you don't know what you're talking about, and sometimes you can actually not tweet. So why don't you sit this one out? Like, you know, we beat Paraguay and we beat them good in the first game, and we performed well in group. We had a solid match against Australia. We also needed 2 own goals in those 2 games. I know we trotted out some subs against Turkey, but they beat us. Bosnia's not very good. That was kind of a rock fight. Like, we had handled, you know, some relatively lower tier teams that we should have beaten. And the bigger issue is most people that I think don't pay attention and come around once every 4 years with their hot soccer takes don't understand that Belgium is awesome. Like, Belgium is tied with Spain right now, 1-1 in the 74th minute. Spain's the number 1 team in the FIFA rankings. Like, that's a really, really good team. And while I thought we had a chance, I did not think it was a guarantee at all. I was hopeful that because it was on our home soil and because we have all these quote-unquote more talented young players playing in the Premiership and playing in, you know, the Bundesliga and, you know, for Pulisic playing at AC Milan, I thought the talent pool combined with the coaching gave us a puncher's chance to win a round of 16 game, but I never thought we had a chance to get past that. So I was disappointed. I think they should be embarrassed with the way they conducted themselves and how poorly they played against Belgium, but I'm not surprised they lost to a really good soccer country.
Yeah, I thought they performed poorly, but then it was like, I don't know, I just felt like we were a bunch of Iowa fans mad we were going to the Gator Bowl. I'm like, well, right. Like, yeah. Well, I'm sorry. What are we confused about here? So, okay, I think that's a good way to break it down. And I think that happens because they watch the Olympics every 4 years, and you know the USA is usually really good in just about every sport. But this is one that I don't know. I think the USA can be great at that sport. I don't know what it takes. You and Trey Fitzgerald, I would have to sit and listen to a pod with you two to kind of gather what it would take for them to hit the elite level, right? Like, I don't know enough about it, but I've always just been confused on the mixture of reaction. And so anyway, your breakdown makes sense.
It really, it really is such a cool tournament. I hope people are still watching, because when you see soccer played like this, then it's kind of an eye opener where it's like, no, it actually is high quality. The problem is MLS might be a top 11, 12 league in the world. I don't know where, like true soccer experts would rank them. But if you sit down and watch an MLS match and you tell me like, dude, I'm good, I get it, because a lot of these MLS matches aren't awesome. You watch the way soccer is supposed to be played with how much is at stake and how much these players and fans care. I don't know how anyone can watch the World Cup and walk away with some dissenting opinion about this game. I just think the tournament's really cool.
Yeah, it's a terrific game. I've never, ever been a downer on soccer. Never. I mean, I'll talk about some rule changes I'd like to see, but not ridiculousness. I don't think cherry picking should be allowed. Like, I'm not saying get rid of offsides. Like, there's a few little things, right? Like the tie and things like that, but the level of play, the entertainment value is there. While Belgium was victorious against the U.S., they had 2 or 3 plays that were just mesmerizing. I thought a couple of passes that were terrific. The way the guy, I don't know his name, the way he handled that long pass across the field deep to the corner and just kind of sticks it with his leg, and then it turns into a goal. And I'm going, yeah, that's spectacular talent. So it's been fun to follow and watch. Too bad the U.S. is out, but I'm still watching. Yeah, I love that it's on during the day, and I think it's very entertaining.
So we spent Tuesday and Wednesday in Frisco, Texas, and let me just say, don't run to your travel agent and be like, "Let's go to Frisco." Really, it's like y'all are good. If you've never been there, it's basically go to a Cowboys game and that's all. But we were there, Tony, of course, for Big 12 Media Days. And I don't know how closely you've been following this stuff, because obviously you're busy doing your job. But this is turned into a really weird, petty, almost like borderline trashy conference. Like, it's petty, it's backbiting. Everyone's talking smack on each other. The commissioner conducts himself like he's a evangelical preacher or somebody running for office instead of like actually running a football conference. So, look, I continue to say, and look, there's no use in looking back, but I feel like we might look back in 20 years at Utah football and say the Pac-12 days were like Camelot. Like, that was as good as it ever was, right? But your thoughts on kind of where we find ourselves, big picture college football, and where the Big 12 kind of fits, and then we'll do some Utah and BYU stuff.
Yeah, to me, the Big 12 is the best of the rest. Right. And I think they deserve that moniker. And it sounds like a backhanded compliment, but it is true. And I'm not being a Big Ten snob here. But with the level that they've now hit, not just winning the last 3 national championships, but you can see financially, and with the way Tony Petitti has done things in that conference, and it was awesome. I had a chance to meet him twice during this past year. There's a different level to him. Everywhere he goes, he elevates. And he is never looking to be successful. He's looking to run up the score, Spence. Like, he is constantly looking to expand, to grow financially, to fine-tune exactly how they're going to go about all sports, non-rev and rev and all those different things. He doesn't care what any other conference thinks. He doesn't care what anybody wants to complain about. He's going to keep leveling up. And they have an advantage over everybody else right now, and obviously the SEC does too. And I think with those two, the gap is really growing in terms of their overall implementation, what they're doing financially, the cutting edge abilities on the top, and the ability to navigate through everything NIL and through everything that is the transfer portal and whatever. And Tony Petitti said it. I was at this Big Ten luncheon that was there in the city, and he goes, look, at the end of the day, whatever the rules are, we're going to adjust, adapt, and be the very best in the nation at whatever those rules are. So when they change, we change. And we're not going to stand around and complain about the way it should be. We have different ideas. But the biggest thing we're going to do is always be evolving. And what the Big 12 is doing is the very best they can, but they're the best of the rest, Spence. And I think it really shows, especially with what happened in some of the postseason situations. I mean, I definitely thought we would see a better performance from Texas Tech in the playoff than we did. I thought that was a bit shocking, not just that they lost, but how oddly bizarre the whole entire thing was. With that said, the Big 12 is going to be as entertaining as any conference in the nation because I think there's a ton of parity there. And I think it's going to be a dogfight right to the top. I think it's odd with all the trash talking and all the bizarre feel to it. I was following some of it, just following YouTube and watching interviews and keeping up with the whole entire thing. I'm curious what the future of that conference really looks like, especially with the growth of the Big Ten and SEC as it continues to evolve. And the one thing you're going to learn if you were the former Pac-12, that version of the Pac-12, is if you are not growing, you are in serious danger of getting decimated in a really big hurry. And so I think there should be concern from everybody in the Big 12 about how things are shifting in college football.
Yeah, and I know people view Yormark as like this dynamite, bold leader, and I've never been one to just mistake like hubris with like boldness. It comes across as like desperation to try to be the smartest, toughest guy in the room. And look, I think in an honest moment, he probably would acknowledge that the landscape under his feet is constantly shifting as well. Because look, I don't really care who it is as it pertains to the decision-making process that is unfolding in college football. Almost every single meeting of note and every single decision of note and every article written about it or every show or podcast recorded about it, there's always just kind of beneath the surface, the context is, okay, let's see what the Big Ten and the SEC have to say, and then we'll let you all know. And so I'm sure if I was the commissioner of the Big 12 or the ACC, I'd be a little bit nervous as well. But overall, I don't know that the conference is on stable footing enough to act kind of the way that it is. And maybe it's a dance that Yormark has to do behind the scenes a little bit, and he's just presenting more of a strong front for the public. I'm just not really sure what to make of it.
No, I'm with you. Remember, it was, 2012 or whatever the situation was with the TV deal and Pac-12. And for a while, the media was all on board that it's like, look, this is Larry Scott. This isn't Craig Thompson. They're going to get the deal done. It's the Pac-12. Gosh, this guy's a genius. He's got it. He's on it. We're good. And then the more time kept going, we were all starting to split on, no, this is a real serious concern here. It's quite possible this game's only going to be available regionally. And I want to say it was Utah, Arizona State or something. It was like September 22nd of that year, and it was far enough down the line. And then before you know it, it hit the level it did. And then Larry would get up on the mic and say something, and people would be like, okay, all right, you know what? It makes sense. I like that. You'd walk out of the meeting or out of the presser feeling better. And then things would just keep deteriorating. And we would all be questioning, like, okay, he always has me feeling good about what's going on, but then the results keep pulling up, and they're never showing. So I don't really – this guy's either a genius and I'm not catching it, or he's really behind and everybody's late to the party. And so time kept going, and then obviously we know what eventually happened. But this is one that, history should teach us something here. You have to be very strategic. You have to be very much in front of what's going on. Porter Larson, he and I hosted a show. You were out of town, and I remember we were talking about how the Pac-12 was dissolving. And one of the things that Porter, I have to give him a ton of credit, he said, you have to be able to see around some corners. You have to really be able to look into the future a bit and get very clear and strategic on how it's going to be done. And he was spot on about that, because that was the day that I think Colorado was leaving, and the media was mixed on, why is this a big deal? And we were like, oh, no, this is a huge deal. And we obviously saw what happened from that point on, because in college football, things are moving fast. They're changing quick. And I think the Big 12, in a really, really big way, especially at the top, they need to pay very close attention to what's going on.
And look, the bottom line is the Big 12 is as stable as it's going to be, and as stable as a spot that Utah and BYU have right now. But I know that I know the hope, and honestly, I feel like some people are counting on some sort of Big Ten invite for Utah at some point. It's a talking point that's not new, and I know that it takes place behind closed doors up on the Hill. Here's the deal, though. Every time I have a national college football media member on the show, I'll ask him, like, hey, you ever hear anything about Utah to the Big Ten? They're like, no, like nothing. And Nicole Auerbach was our guest at Big 12 Media Day, and we were talking about the private equity deal and where the revenue streams are going to come from. And I said, what would solve it all is if Utah could actually get a Big Ten invite where, her understanding is that has never even been talked about, where on the other side, I think there are people up here that are both hopeful and maybe even counting on that being a realistic landing spot at some point. Just give me your thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, it would be awesome. That would be a dream come true for me. I would love it more than anything. If I could just have it my way, I would have Kyle Whittingham coach Michigan, and he is, and Jay Hill be the DC, and he is. So sometimes things do go my way. And then the other thing that would go my way is Utah in the Big Ten. That would be awesome. I don't get the feeling that would be a direct thing. I feel like that would be one of those, the dominoes falling other places to lead to that happening. So the initial thought, like BYU to the Big 12, is the same kind of thing in the previous era, of course. My thought was, well, no, this wouldn't be a direct thing. It would have to be this domino falls, that domino falls, opens up this opportunity, and then they're the next best option. So I think it would have to be 3 or 4 things all happening in conjunction to lead to something like that. As much as I love the University of Utah, and I would love to have them in the Big Ten, that'd be my pref. With everything else that's out there and other places and other programs to pick from and the way things are going to shift, they would not be at the very top of that list. So could they end up there at some point? Sure. But the reason why they're not hearing anything about it is because I don't think that they would be the top priority when it comes to the initial shifting of any sort of conference realignment in the near future.
There were some really interesting conversations going on regarding Utah with Morgan taking over and this being his first year. Only one Ute made the preseason all Big 12 team. And Kyle, for a number of years, he delighted in the dynamic of being able to prove people wrong. He didn't want to be, he didn't want to have a lot of attention. He wanted to fly under the radar, and he would use that as fuel for his players. To not be ranked or have these guys overlooked. And then Kyle built Utah football up to the point where they were starting to get the benefit of the doubt. Like, they were highly ranked and they were winning conference championships, and they were a conference championship contender year in and year out, even when they weren't winning the conference outside of some crazy Cam Rising injury years and such that we all know about. Now Morgan is kind of starting to climb up the hill that Kyle had to climb up himself, where I didn't hear anyone pick Utah to win the conference. I heard a few people say thought they were probably the tier behind BYU and Texas Tech. And it's going to take Morgan some time, because a lot of the conversation that we would have with other media members or folks around the conference is, well, you tell us about Morgan. We don't really, you're the Utah station, so you tell us. Whereas everyone got to know Witt and still to this day respects him in a way that Morgan is just going to have to earn. Right. So as he kind of starts to make this climb to hopefully earn the benefit of the doubt at some point, what are your thoughts on year one for him?
Different things to different people. For some, it's going to galvanize them. For others, it's going to create concern. And the one thing that Morgan knows is that this first season, there's a lot that he already knows that he's going to carry in, and some of the new stuff that he's going to implement. And we know it's going to be a mixture of both. And how everything really happens under the surface is going to decide a lot of this. And in that first year, every head coach has told me this. You just don't know until you actually get into that position. People shift, relationships shift. All of a sudden, people liked things a certain way. Now it's not quite the way that they liked it. So now they're not as happy. Other people are galvanized because they're like, wow, this is the way it always should have been. Any person who's a new manager, right, in a business or, takes over in a senior management role and everything that goes on. Now, the one thing I like for Morgan is he has a ton of experience that's helped him be the most prepared he can be for this. But nothing really prepares you for all of that. And so in that first year, The one thing that Morgan Scalley had the chance to witness was the problem-solving aspect from Kyle Whittingham. And what becomes really fun to watch Morgan Scalley in year one is the problem-solving aspect. And I think he'll be great at it. And the big question comes, do they have all the dudes that they need, right? Like all these newcomers, 18 new guys that they could be counting on at different points from both sides of the ball. And how do they perform? And if they're not, who's the next guy? And how do you make sure that, if there's trust issues of any kind, how quickly do those go away? How do they get resolved? All of that is what it really comes down to when being a head coach. And I think Morgan is fit for it. I think they're going to have a great year, right? Like I've had them looking at it over and over again, and I'm going 9-3. I like them at 9-3. And what happens in this role, the changes that are happening, you may not notice until later in the year or at the end of the year. But I think that he has a great staff in place. I think guys that trust him, respect him, have been around him. And so we watched what happened with, like, say, Kyle Whittingham. He adjusted after losing Gary Anderson. Kalani Sitake is now going to have to adjust after losing Jay Hill. There's different shifts that occur time and time again. So I don't think this will be as big a drop as, say, Kalani going 4-9 in the early portion of his head coaching career at BYU. I don't think this has the kind of drop that we saw with, Kyle Whittingham in those immediate years after Urban Meyer had left. I do believe that this is, a much better built situation overall for a guy like Morgan Scalley to walk into. And I've always said this, it's personal to him. He is not going to sleep until this is at the level he wants it to be. And I don't think you can measure that because to him, this is not a job. This is an identity-based issue for him. This is what he has been most passionate about from the time he was a little kid. And I think those kinds of things matter. I think it's, it can cut both ways. I understand that. But what is he's going to have the relentless ability to, whatever issues there are, he's going to do whatever it takes to resolve them as quickly as possible. So I don't have them going to the playoff. I don't have them winning the Big 12. It's not because I think that's a slight against him or the program. No, I think they're going to be really, really good, and they're going to compete towards the end of the season. And I have them, on the outside looking in of the Big 12 championship.
9-3 would be a huge win. I think anything. Yeah. I think anything beyond 8, if you get 9-3, would be an absolute massive, massive win. And I like you, am entirely optimistic about what this thing is going to look like under Morgan. And we had Devin Dampier on site. He was awesome. Looks like he's grown up a little bit. Looks like he's in great shape. We had Wayshawn Parker. Unbelievable grill on that kid. By the way, have you ever thought about getting? I want to see a Tony Park straight gold grill, dude. I think that would add to the broadcast.
Well, you think about it. I come from the East Bay,
it's true.
And then West Valley City.
Yep.
I think at some point, I think it's one of those things that has to happen throughout the course of life. I've been a little bit late to it, if we're completely honest. I think it's something I need to be looking at as I start, moving towards my mid-40s.
Yeah, you've never been nothing if not a trendsetter. So I'm thinking gold grill, TP, on the call. I love it. But all of these young men are very impressive. You can tell that what Morgan is trying to do, he's receiving buy-in. But none of it matters, and Morgan said this himself, none of it matters if you don't win football games. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to win. Nobody's lost on that. Morgan's not going to go out there and get trounced 45-13 and come in roses and sunshine. And, the thing I'm going to like about Morgan, and the thing I think fans will really like about him is you get to know him as a head coach. The dude will tell the truth. Like, he's not going to be a person that's going to be brutal to work with and challenge, but he's going to tell the truth. And he's going to tell it in a way that it needs to be told. And it's going to be about the next best right thing all the time. Like, I think he has such a great mindset. I think he's really ready to be a head coach. For all the fallout that happened at Utah with Kyle and how bizarre that was, as we look going forward, I really like this opportunity for him. I think he's ready for it. I mean, I've known him personally a bit and have always been a big fan of him personally, and I'm not trying to let that lead to my optimism for him. But he is the guy that will win the trust of so many people. You can have expertise, influence is the next step, and I think he has all of that and more. And I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised with what's being built under the surface. As I said, I think 9-3. He knows wins is where it comes down to it. But I think, for this first year, and I know fans well, but I hope they don't overreact to some things that are good or something that's different that they thought they liked more with Kyle. Because this is different, even if it's not a wholesale change. It is going to be different, but it doesn't mean it's going to be worse.
Moving over, before I set you loose, to the BYU side of things, where the narrative around them is much different. Several people who joined the show are picking BYU to win the conference. They were second to Texas Tech with players named to the all Big 12 first team selection. Sat down with Keanu Tanavasa, obviously former Ute. He definitely seems like he's grown up. He has a kid on the way. He's married. Bear Bachmeyer was there, the contingent of BYU players and obviously coaches. And we sat down with Kalani and Brian Santiago. So it's a different deal for BYU where they're not trying to prove anything to anybody anymore. They're kind of where Utah was final few years of the Pac-12, where Kalani's built that thing up, where they're kind of receiving benefit of the doubt. And with all of the chaos with Texas Tech, a lot of people believe they should be the favorite to win this thing.
Yeah, I don't think they're crazy for, making that selection. And this is one thing with Kyle Whittingham, a good number of years ago when I really started to believe more and more in Kyle, not just the 08 Sugar Bowl, it was his ability to go through so many different changes and unique situations. Obviously, post-Urban, and then you had the Sugar Bowl stuff, but then you had the transition into the Pac-12, social media, the transition into, so many weird things, even COVID, all of that. But one of the transitions he was great at was when he would have to coach up coaches and have them ready for the next job. And what we're about to find out, what I feel good about for BYU, is how many guys are ready to go out and shine as coaches in their new roles. Because let's not forget when Kalani Sitake was promoted years ago to be the linebackers coach at Utah, and no one had really known of him as a coach yet, right? They weren't like, oh, yeah, he was at Eastern Arizona or wherever it was for a year, and then he did Southern Utah. Like, you just hadn't heard about him, and you're going, oh, yeah, right. He was with BYU in the 90s. I remember him. But you didn't really know what he was as a coach yet. And they didn't really know the kind of impact that he had. And let's not forget that when Jay Hill was a special teams coach for 9 years at the University of Utah before he ended up being a head coach at Weber, and now he's as respected as he is now. Now, here's the point. Jay was always a great defensive football mind and was ready for a job like this, right? And Kalani Sitake was always ready for a job like that. And then to be the DC, and obviously Gary Anderson when he was, taking off as head coach other places. And when Kyle was able to manage his staff, it was being able to coach up coaches well enough to be ready for that opportunity when it arrived. And I think that is going to be a strength of Kalani's in this next chapter of his career, and I'm excited to see it come to fruition. So as people are excited about what's coming up for BYU football, I think that's a key piece that Kalani won't want to take credit for because it never comes off looking good. But I think he'll deserve a lot of credit for what he's built, not just in player development, culture, that's obvious, but it's what he's done to build up coaches the way he has, the same way Ron McBride did, the same way Lavelle Edwards did, the same way Kyle Whittingham did. And I think that's going to be a big feather in his cap in 26.
Give us a Bees update, Tom. We'll set you loose.
Struggling to hit the baseball. Oh, my goodness. I always say the PCL stands for playing chutes and ladders, and that has never been more true than it is this week in Sacramento. So blew a 6-0 lead on Tuesday, and then scored first on Wednesday, and then didn't score again. And then we were up last night again, and the offense went cold. But no matter what, it's fun. We get to go to the ballpark. Can't wait for Country Weekend, July 17th through the 19th, as it's called. The Porter Larson Classic is what we're calling Country Weekend at the ballpark in America First Square.
Ooh.
Because no one loves country music more than Porter Larson.
Well, maybe Vinny C, but it's a short list.
Yeah. Well, no, that's just more for we know what type of crowd is excited to see Vinny C.
No doubt.
We all know. They're waiting outside. They need the autographs. They want the photos. For Porter, it's just like he walks in and there's this stunned silence. There's this, oh, my gosh, that's the guy. And I know the feeling. And I see it. And I feel it, and Country Weekend is all about Porter Larson, and I'm going to make sure to get some Merle Haggard in there for Porter. I'm going to make sure we get one of Porter's favorite songs in each one of the 3 games. So I'm going to find out which they are.
Porter, is that enough to get you out to the ballpark?
That might actually be enough to get me to where is it? Panguitch?
It's in Daybreak, right? Isn't it?
than daybreak.
Yeah, it's not that
What are
far.
you guys doing over there?
Yeah.
What kind of comment is that?
I'll be there, Tone.
Especially after you were showering him with adoration and he has to come in off the top rope, man. That was rough.
Oh, I know. I'm like hyping up Porter Larson because I love working with Porter, and he's out here bashing on the ballpark, acting like we're in Escalante. By the way, Grand Staircase, check it out if you get a chance. But no, come on, man. We're right out there in daybreak. We've had some wonderful crowds, beautiful nights. We have a drone show on the 17th and fireworks on the 18th. So make sure to be there with us. And then if not, check us out on the broadcast. We'll be having a good time.
Is there a direct flight?
Is there a direct flight?
Just kidding,
No,
dude.
but there is a Buffalo Wild Wings not far,
Ooh.
and one of my absolute favorite places to go after the game because, well, they're open late. That always helps. And so if I feel good after a win, I'm excited to be there. If I'm sad after a loss, it's a good place to go get that All-American burger with a side of barbecue sauce. So,
There you go, bud. All right, Tom. Thanks for the time, man. Safe travels, okay?
thanks, man. Be good. We'll see you.
Tony Parks, voice of the Bees. Spain has advanced 2-1 win over Belgium. They will take on France in the semifinals Tuesday. So there you go. All right, we'll catch a break. Coming up next, the Summer League has moved to Las Vegas. The Jazz appear to be done building their roster with 15 players under contract. Sarah Todd will stop by. Then we'll catch up with Easton Folster from the UGA. Craig Bolerjack joins us, too. Busy Friday show. Happy Friday to you. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. NBA Summer League has moved to Las Vegas after a fun time here in Salt Lake at the Huntsman Center, which means the Utah Jazz have also moved to Las Vegas, which means our next guest joins us live from the blackjack table with a cocktail in her hand. Sarah Todd, are you splitting aces and eights and doubling down on 12s?
I mean, if I was still playing blackjack these days, I would be doing those things. But I'm more of a craps lady these days.
Okay, so so I want the Sarah Todd in Vegas experience. Are we talking models and bottles? Are we getting loose at night?
Oh man,
what's it like?
We're talking the $5 craps table at Excalibur. We're talking staying as far away from the nicest part of the strip as I can because I can't really handle being around that many people. And we're talking about a Groupon for a 90-minute massage at some point during the week. And just never going outside unless it's by the pool. It's miserable down here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I did 6 straight Vegas Summer League experiences. And anytime anybody's like, hey, do you want to go? I'm like, absolutely not. No, thank you. But you're there because you're the hardest working person in the business. So we appreciate your time today. Before we actually know, let's not bury the lead. AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, we were all looking forward to this game last night. Tell me what you saw from both players, and then is anything really going to change your opinion on how this thing is going to kind of play out?
No, I mean, it would just take so much for me to believe that Darren Peterson is not going to be an incredible basketball player. Probably the same for AJ DeBonsa. There's not a lot that can sway me on those guys right now. As far as the game last night, kind of disappointing in my opinion. Like, yes, we saw AJ DeBonsa, a few of the reasons that he's going to be great. We saw, a variety of things from Darren Peterson, but there were also 60 fouls in that game, Spence. It was so many stoppages, so many free throws, even with the, changed free throw rules where they're just shooting one attempt to count for all the attempts through the majority of the game. Man, it was awful. I feel like everyone in that arena was just like, let's get this over with by the time that the game had wound down to the fourth quarter. So it wasn't really like that intense back and forth battle that everybody in Summer League was really hoping for between AJ and Darren. Instead, it kind of turned out to be like a little bit of your classic Summer League game where you're realizing the youth and the talent level on some of these teams. Because, obviously you've got AJ and Darren, and their talent is incredible and exceptional, but every Summer League squad is filled out with players who are never going to sniff an NBA roster. And I think we felt a lot of that last night.
How much did we see of AJ and Darren head to head on individual, on an island?
So I think there were just a handful of possessions. One that really stands out. You could hear the crowd, the take the breath or woo, when that happened, and it didn't happen often enough. There was kind of one ISO play and Darren got a stop, but it was not as much as everyone was hoping for.
So I did see a clip where Darren hit a banked in a 3 and then started barking at somebody. Could you tell who he was talking to?
Yeah, I'm not sure. There was a few times that Darren got, I'd say a little in his feelings or was showing a little bit of an edge after a play. There's obviously there was a play where he was reviewed for a flagrant foul and it was called off when he shoved a guy after a play. And I don't know exactly which players were. I mean, I've slept since then, Spence, so it's hard to remember the exact names. But what I do like is that I think Darren's a little bit more assertive and has a little bit more edge than maybe I had anticipated. And that excites me because I don't think there's a lot of players on this Jazz roster who kind of have that.
The other thing I was thinking about is, Ace Sat Cody did play, but Washington is a pretty rare team where like Trey Johnson, NBA guy, Will Riley, NBA guy. So AJ kind of had more wingmen than Darren had. There are more NBA players on Washington's roster than NBA players on Utah's roster. Like Darren was kind of asked to do a little bit of everything, yeah?
Yeah, and I mean, life is going to be so different for Darren in summer league versus the regular season too. And so it's you are not going to see many situations, if any, in NBA games during the regular season where a team can triple team Darren Peterson, right? Like they're throwing blitzes at him. They're covering him with, doubling him multiple times throughout the game and even throwing three guys at him in certain situations. And the thing is that he's not flanked by a bunch of NBA guys, like you're saying. Like it's not a roster full of rotation guys. Once you're on an NBA court, a team is not going to be able to use defenders like that on Darren Peterson when they also have to worry about, Keontae George, Jaren Jackson Jr., Lowry Markkanen. Like that's just not going to happen on a summer league roster where your biggest concern is Cody Williams next to Darren Peterson. Yeah, you can throw as many defenders at him as you want. So like some of the ball handling stuff, some of the turnover stuff, all of those things like don't really worry me about Darren Peterson right now because this is just such a totally different world that he's living in right now.
Now that you have seen him up close multiple times, I know you've watched him certainly in college and you've seen plenty of tape, but is there anything about him that is surprising you a little bit over the first few summer league games that maybe you weren't expecting?
I don't know if it's stuff that I wasn't expecting. I think I'm more surprised at some of the stuff that I had gleaned from watching tape and seeing him over the last couple of years, and then seeing it in person a few times now. Like it is just insane to me that this is a 19-year-old who doesn't like get sped up, who doesn't look like he cracks under pressure or there's like any chaos that could take him out of his rhythm. That's a very, very strange and unique thing. It's incredible, especially when he's changing speeds, going from fast to slow. Not, the usual when you hear changing speeds, you think like, oh, they pick it up. But when he's changing speeds to slow down, and he just looks like he's in complete control, it is so much greater in person. Seeing it, multiple times in a row now from him, that like that's a literal teenager out there, and he understands the game so much better and is able to manipulate the game so much better than guys that I've seen that are in their late 20s.
So when it comes to the other players on the summer league roster that we are expecting to see with the Jazz, I know they're going to protect Ace as they should. So let's just go with Ace. Any update on whether or not we're going to see him the rest of the way, and in the truncated space that you have seen from Ace Bailey, what stands out?
His strength is what stands out. I mean, just his body and kind of the transformation that he's had just in the short span right now. So the season ended in the second week of April, and we're only in July, and I've already he looks definitely stronger. There's not many guys that can make that kind of a big transformation in just a few weeks time, and so that's what stands out about him. And no big update. I know that they're calling Ace day to day, so I think that they're just being extra cautious with him. Darren told me last night that he's expecting to play on Sunday in the Jazz's second game in Vegas. Now, whether or not what Darren expects for himself and what the Jazz want for him, those don't necessarily have to line up, right? So take it for what you will that Darren is the one that said that he expects to play on Sunday. But if that's true, and if Darren does play on Sunday, then I think that there's still a chance that we could see Ace on Sunday because they have 2 days off in between these summer games. Beyond that, it would surprise me a lot if not just the Jazz, but any of the players with kind of top-level draft picks, if any of them play past the second game in Vegas.
It's going to be a big year for Cody. This year could determine whether or not he's an NBA player or he's got to go try to get a passport to Greece or something. I feel like everybody says, okay, he looks bigger, he looks stronger. And I want to be clear. I probably should have made this clear earlier. Nothing about Summer League is anything that I take as real. I've just seen it way too many times where some no-name player comes out of nowhere and drops 40, and everyone's like, oh, you missed on him, and we never hear from him again. And some of the best players, I tell this anecdote all the time. I watched Greg Ostertag outplay Tim Duncan in Summer League in 1997. It was here in Salt Lake. So I'm not going to anoint or dismiss anyone based off of Summer League, but are there any encouraging signs with Cody Williams other than he seems to be lifting weights more?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think that Cody kind of seems like the same that he did in the previous Summer League, or kind of at the end of the season. I'm kind of waiting to see what is different, right? Because that's what you want to see on some of these guys. And unfortunately, we've only seen Ace play in a single game, and so you can't really evaluate what has changed or what he's kind of taking up to the next level in Summer League play. But that's what you want to see from guys who are in their second or third year playing summer ball, is that they're not just learning the ropes like a rookie is, or learning terminology, that they're taking what they've learned in the year or two in the NBA and kind of applying it. And I mean, athletic ability and, hard dunks and cutting and kind of being in the right spot, that's been Cody's MO. And I don't think that we've seen him kind of elevate it yet.
So you did some reporting on a story that I just think it's so pathetic that the NBA would not allow Keontae George to sit on the bench in an assistant coaching role for Summer League. It's beyond silly that they got in the way of this. Can you help us understand? Well, first of all, for our listeners that don't know, give us some background, and then help us understand why the NBA stood in the way.
Basically, the background is that, Keontae has been around the young guys all summer, and he's been at every practice for the Summer League team, just kind of helping out, being there for encouragement. Nobody can really get him out of the gym, so he's just there anyways. And so, they were messing around during a practice. He drew up a play. It worked out. There were jokes like, oh, maybe we should put him on the coaching staff. And then basically the jokes turned serious. And it was like, wait, can we actually do that? And so, it was originally thought that so long as there was no compensation, that it was just a volunteer role, that he could do it for a single game. And it was going to be yesterday's game against the Wizards, that he was going to join the Summer League coaching staff. Then on Wednesday, the NBA informed the Jazz that even if he's not compensated, basically it's seen as cap circumvention anyways, because it could boost his profile, and it could lead to, who knows what it could lead to if he's looked at as a better leader. Does that, increase any or give leverage in conversations later on about an extension? Or he's seen on the sidelines, then does he get an endorsement deal from someone because of kind of the boosted profile or the amplified profile while in Vegas? And so even though he wouldn't be compensated for like his duties on the coaching staff, the league office, the reason that they gave was cap circumvention.
Have they given an update on the other more prevalent, prominent cap circumvention investigation going on?
That's interesting that you asked that, Spence. No, they have not. They're actually holding up a really big trade right now because they have not given an update on that.
It's just beyond silly. All right, the most important question, Sarah, is what kind of hat was Carlos Boozer wearing here in Salt Lake?
That's a Pebble Beach, a Spyglass Hill golf course hat. You will not believe how much time I spent on that, Spence. Listen, sometimes Summer League games are exciting and they're fun, and sometimes you got a lot of time on your hands while those games are being played. And man, did I use my time wisely that day.
What? So what the hell? What's going on? How did this all go down? I need the story.
Well, Chandler Holt over at KSL Sports, he pointed out to me that, we were just far enough to not be able to make out the logo on Carlos Boozer's hat sitting courtside. And I don't know, I've probably got undiagnosed mental health issues that really play into this. But if you give me, number one, a puzzle, or also give me something that just needs to be figured out, man, do I hyper focus. And so he pointed out that he couldn't make out the logo, and he wanted to know, is that a Memphis Grizzlies hat that he's wearing? He's sitting courtside. He works for the Jazz. He's watching his son play for the Memphis Grizzlies. And so I enlisted the help of many people. I was texting people that were sitting courtside to see if anybody could see his hat. I eventually got somebody to text me a picture of it kind of close up, take an incognito photo of it close up, and then ran that through a reverse Google image search, and there we go.
Look at that. Well, Sarah, God bless you for doing the hard work that we've come to know you for. Just probably should ask, just out of respect for the rest of the roster, outside of Cody and Darren and Ace, anyone on this roster catching your eyes so much to the point where you think maybe they've got a shot to be on this team this year?
I think you got the two-way guys that are there. Tamar Bates, he had a really impressive dunk last night in the game. Blake Henson, he's thinned out a lot since the end of the regular season. You got your two-way guys who are going to probably stand out. The thing is, Spence, is that even as you're mentioning Cody Williams, I've said this on your show before, it's important to realize that, starting lineup for next season is already decided and taken care of. And then on the bench, you're probably going to have one of, Ace, Darren, Keontae, and then a 10-man rotation means that you're only going to include 4 other guys. There's going to be some sort of a backup center in there at some point. And then don't forget that John Conchar and Svi Mikhailuk are on this roster, and Will Hardy and the Jazz really like those guys. They're established NBA guys. They do everything that they're asked to do. The Jazz just signed Josh Okogie. I don't think that they signed him just so that he can, take up space. And so that is a 10-man roster. That's a 10-man rotation. An 11-man rotation, is that going to include Cody Williams? So, when you're looking at guys like Cody, Bryce, Isaiah, there are going to be a lot of decisions, and there's not going to be as many minutes to go around as in the previous couple of years leading up to this. And so when we're talking about, even beyond that on the Summer League roster, no, there isn't anyone that catches the eye.
Really liked Josh Okogie in college. Thought he would be a better pro than he's been. It doesn't mean that he's been a bad pro. I'd say he's been fine. And I think it's a solid signing, utilizing the mechanisms at their disposal. What should Jazz fans know about Josh Okogie?
Yeah, probably couldn't have said it better myself, Spence. That's kind of been the situation. It's there have been small flashes. You really, really want him to be kind of your 3-and-D guy. But right now, the Jazz have such a lack of wing defense and perimeter defense that any guy that you can get that can come in and kind of promises to even give an effort, that sounds really good. Very athletic, has all of the tools to be a good NBA player, just hasn't kind of maybe stood out the way that everyone thought he was going to in the beginning.
Also bring in Mo Bamba. That brings the roster to 15. Is it safe to just kind of assume that this is the group?
Nothing safe, Spence.
Sure.
Yeah. It wouldn't be surprising, I think, if there were another couple of moves, if the Jazz kind of made some trades here or there to try to shore up just around the edges, right? And because I just don't think, the Yusuf Nurkic, Mo Bamba, Jackson Hayes center rotation, that is not the center rotation of the future.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually there's going to be other moves made.
All right, last thing, and I'll set you loose, Sarah. Appreciate the time. So Steve Wojciechowski is coaching the Summer League team. Of course, he's an assistant for Will. For basketball fans, you may have remembered him playing for Duke, aggressively slapping the floor a lot. Can we learn anything about how Steve is electing to use Darren Peterson as it pertains to the way we think Will is going to use him when the regular season rolls around?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that what we're seeing a lot with the way that he uses Darren Peterson is that it's kind of interchangeably the ball has been in Darren's hands or Cody's hands. And so you're kind of getting a feel that Darren is a combo guard, right? And that's probably the way that most teams were going to look to use him. And that's kind of what you expect if you look at the way that the Jazz are using Keontae George. And the way that Darren has talked about him playing alongside Keontae and the expectations for the regular season, like that's what it looks like. So the fact that Wojo is kind of putting the ball in Darren's hands and definitely wanting him to make plays, but also taking him off the ball and using him on the wing, that seems like right about what Jazz fans can expect during the regular season.
Sarah, we will set you loose. Try to stay cool out there and enjoy Vegas. Safe travels, okay?
Thanks a lot, Spence. Talk soon.
All right, Sarah Todd covers the Utah Jazz for the Deseret News. The NBA Summer League has moved to Las Vegas. Last night we saw A.J. DeBonsa and Darren Peterson go head-to-head. Darren had 24 points but was only 6 of 18 with 8 turnovers. Not a great game for him. And then A.J. had 27 points, 7 of 18, but missed all 5 of his threes and was actually 2 of 13 away from the rim. Did have 7 rebounds, and Washington was able to beat the Jazz 92-88. All right, before we catch a break, it's time now for your You Went to Golf PGA Tour leaderboard. Serving Utah since 1971, club fitting, hitting bays, experienced pros, and the latest on ping. Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade, and more. Get there, our good friends at You Went to Golf. The PGA Tour is across the pond in preparation for the Open Championship. They're playing the Genesis Scottish Open, where Jordan Smith from the UK is your leader through 2 rounds. He's 9 under. Tom Kim is 9 under, as is Rory McIlroy. 9 under par. Matt Fitzpatrick, 8 under par. Minwoo Lee is at 8 under as well. Your leading American is Chris Gotterup, coming off a win. He's at 7 under. Scotty Scheffler missed the cut for the first time in 4 years. Massive streak ends there. All right, speaking of golf, we're going to check in at the UGA State Am, 128th playing of the State Amateur Tournament up at Soldier Hollow with our friend Easton Folster. Bowler's going to stop by a little bit later on. Sports Court, too, as we missed our Thursday show. So busy Friday show. Good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. All right, it's going to be Spain and France next Tuesday in Dallas for the World Cup semifinal. And then tomorrow should be a good one. We actually have a little bit of a double header with Argentina. Lionel Messi, of course, having an incredible tournament. You've got, before that, I think it's Norway taking on England. I think that's the early game, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, Norway, England, then Argentina, Switzerland. So 3 o'clock Mountain Time, then 7 o'clock Mountain Time. As the World Cup rolls along, the 128th playing of the Utah State Amateur Golf Tournament is taking place right now at Soldier Hollow. And the president of the Andre Drummond Fan Club, Easton Folster, joins us on a Friday. What's up, man? How are you?
Spence, that's right. Very excited about Andre Drummond. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. For our listeners, when we were playing in the Media Am Day, the Knicks had just lost Mitchell Robinson, and Easton apparently is clairvoyant. He said, well, let's wait to hear the Andre Drummond news, and sure enough, it came down. What do you make of the current state of our New York Knicks?
Yeah, there's Shams, and then there's Woj, and then there's me.
Yep.
I was glad I was first on the Andre Drummond stuff. I'm still on cloud nine, as I'm sure you are. So, I mean, they could have signed anybody, and I think I would have given them a pass for the championship they brought. So I don't at this point mind who they sign. I'm just tickled still.
That's the way to look at it, because I'm disgusted, quite frankly. I think it's a horrible addition. I think they need a backup center badly, but we can move on from it. All right, let's start with a little background, Easton, for our listeners who don't know. It's the 128th playing of the Utah State Amateur Golf Tournament. Why is this tournament so special to our state and the UGA?
Yeah, of course I'm partial to it, but I would say that it's the crown jewel event, golf tournament in the state. Certainly for amateurs, it's I feel like our largest championship. It's the most prestigious. I know we've said, oftentimes, and you and I have discussed, we brag about it being the oldest continuously held tournament in the entire world. We were giving out hats as player gifts that said 1899 across the front of them, which was the first year the State Am was held, which is crazy. I don't know how many things we could name that started in 1899 and just have continued on to today. So it's got a lot of history. It's got the best players in the state competing, and so it's a really big deal, and it's something that we take a lot of pride in. I think the players take a lot of pride in. So we're gaining on it. We're on Friday. We got today and of course tomorrow, so we're getting there, but really excited.
I think some of our listeners who are fascinated with just the game and the way these things kind of go about would like to hear about the process as far as, like, how is the course selected? Do courses apply to be considered? Then what's that process when you pick where the tournament's going to be played? And then I found it interesting playing with you at the Media Day, where you clearly were looking at, okay, this stake should probably go there. We've got to cut. I think at one point the player we were playing with who was gonna be in the tournament, there was kind of a blind tee shot, so you're kind of like, we got to take some trees down there, and pin placement and such. How you kind of cultivate the course for the player's experience.
Yeah, it is quite a process, and you've illustrated a few of them that are important. I mean, we make site visits throughout the year, and meet with course staff, both from the clubhouse perspective as well as on course and their maintenance crew, and we've set our wish list. And Soldier Hollow is just amazing. Usually our wish list is completely granted. They work really hard to make it the way that we want, and they've done a great job this week, and all of the courses that we've been at in Utah, really their crews work hard to make it special for the players. But we meet throughout the year, and they know our expectations and some of our wishes. And as you get closer and closer to the event, and you pointed out a few of them, it's time to kind of get those things dialed in. So, certainly we're looking at, how difficult we want the course to play. 288 players, which is the field size, is a lot of players to get through on, over 2 days, playing 2 rounds on 2 golf courses. So there's a balance of, is the course too difficult? Is it too simple? What kind of scores do we want to see coming in? And so, we balance all those things. I think we I think we try and get it right more often than not. I think there's been times where maybe it's too difficult and we dial it back, but it's really just the open lines of communication between UGA staff and the maintenance crew and making sure we're on the same page. And we have been. And like I said, Soldier Hall was just, they're amazing at being hosts and making us feel welcome and making a great experience for players. But you're right. In short summary, yes, we're always going to look at, rough height and where stakes go and making sure that courses are properly marked and hole locations. And yes, it's, at the time that you and I had played, that's really when it's starting to get dialed in. So you got to see a little bit of that, and that obviously continues throughout this week.
How far in advance are courses selected to host the tournament?
Yeah, Thanks for asking that. I would say it's mutual. There are certainly courses that approach us and say, "Hey, we would love to host the state amateur or even another event." That happens. And then there's times where we approach golf courses and say, "Hey, we would love to have the state amateur at your event." More often than not, our clubs in Utah are incredibly supportive, and the answers we usually get are yes. We don't get yeses all the time. Sometimes we got to be flexible on the year. But, I've put a goal for the UGA to try and get this scheduled 5 to 10 years out. So right now we're scheduled through 2031, which is good. It's 5 years out. We want to start getting it to 10 years out. And so, we're always surveying golf courses and we just really want the best golf courses that we can for what we feel like is the best event in Utah, and we get a lot of support on that. So it's mutual. They approach us, we approach them, and kind of come to terms on it. And then from there, we've got 3, 4, 5 years to work towards the actual tournament week.
Do you have the list of the next 5 years? I don't want to catch you off guard. Like, where's the tournament being played moving forward?
Yeah, no, I'd love to share that. We actually went public with it not so long ago. In 2027, so next year, we're going to be at Willow. In 28, Willow Creek Country Club, I should be more specific. In 2028, we're going to be at Oak Ridge Country Club. 29, we're really close to having something, so we're going to be announcing that soon. And then 2030 is at Alpine Country Club. And 2031, for the first time in the event's at that point, I think it'll be 133-year history, we'll actually be taking the State Am to St. George and have it at Entrada Country Club, which is exciting. We are going to mess around with the dates there a little bit. We're going to bump it up to the first part of June, given how hot it is. But for the first time ever, we'll be down at in St. George at Entrada Country Club. So we're really excited about that.
Do you have any courses on your wish list that you haven't seen the tournament played on yet?
Oh, sure. I think, down the mountain, and I'd say kind of on the Wasatch Front, we've got, a lot of clubs that, are typically in a kind of a 10 to 15 year rotation that they're always great to help. Some of the, I think the simple answer, some of these new clubs that are being built up the mountain, I'd say in Park City, Wahali and Marcella. Some of those are tough asks, and we work on them, and certainly would love to meet with the ownerships and the management groups there. But I think anytime we get to show off some of the new elite golf courses to the elite amateur players, that would be on my wish list for sure.
What is the process for qualification, and what is the criteria for golfers who want to play in the tournament?
Yeah, it's an exciting one. So really there's two qualifications. One has to have a 9.9 handicap or lower, and you have to be a member of the UGA. And so once you meet those two criteria, what you have to do is sign up for a qualifier. We host 11 qualifiers statewide. Takes place towards the latter half of May and typically throughout the month of June. We end up having over 900 people attempt to qualify, and then we get it to a field of 288 through qualifiers and a few exemptions that we have. And then 288 is what tees it up on the first day of the championship. So, yeah, I think we've gotten pretty close to 1,000 at one point. So anywhere from 900 golfers to 1,000 golfers attempt to play on the championship week.
I'm going to ask you a dumb question, and I think I probably know the answer, but to be a member of the UGA, do you have to be a Utah resident and have a home course here in Utah, or can people from other states find ways to get in this thing?
Yeah, great question. You don't have to be a resident of the state. You can be out of state and still be a UGA member. So, yeah, and we've got, I'm sure, thousands. Well, maybe not thousands, but hundreds of people that, maybe summer here or winter here or whatever it may be, or partially here. So, no, you don't necessarily have to be a full-time resident to compete in any of the UGA championships. We just require that you are a member.
I see. What does the winner get? What's the benefit outside of a nice trophy and being a celebrity here in the golf scene? What's the winner of the tournament receive as far as pathways to other tournaments or benefits such as that?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because we actually had a new announcement here and a new partnership that we actually just announced a few weeks back with Bank of Utah. They're going to be our official banking partner of the UGA. And with that, and anyone that's a golfer in the state of Utah that's listening knows that they're also the sponsor of the PGA Tour event, the Bank of Utah Championship down in Black Desert. And so they have graciously, as part of that partnership, given our winner of the state amateur an exemption onto that PGA Tour event, which is really cool. Really excited about that. And then in addition to that, the winner also is exempt into the United States Amateur Championship. And then they are also able to compete on a few of our traveling teams. Probably the most notable is the Pacific Coast Amateur team. So they get a few additional invites that come with it, primarily the USAM and the Bank of Utah Championship, which is pretty neat.
All right, walk us through the format, like day one through the final day. What's the format? What's the bracket? How does this thing play out, Easton?
Yeah, it's modeled after the United States Amateur. The only difference really is the United States Amateur, I think, starts with 312 players. We start with 288. It's over 2 golf courses, which is why being at Soldier Hollow is great. There are years, and moving forward, we're going to be doing 1 golf course and a field size of 156. This is the last year we're going to do 288. So for this week, we're over 2 golf courses. All 288 players get to play both golf courses the first 2 days. It's stroke play qualifying. They need to be in the top 64. And then really from there on Wednesday, the top 64 enter into what's called match play or bracket play. It's essentially the exact same thing as March Madness, which I think is kind of the easiest way to describe it. It's 1 versus 1. And if you win, you advance to the next round all the way until right now this afternoon. We've got the semifinals, and the winners of the semifinals will, of course, play tomorrow, Saturday, our 6th day of the championship. They'll play in a 36-hole final match. So it's really modeled after kind of March Madness bracket play, which I think makes it unique. I know match play is not as common for your everyday golfer. And so it's kind of a fun format and certainly part of our identity.
Give us an update on the golfers that are out on the course today. What's that looking like so far?
Yeah, so far, so we've just got the semifinalists. I'll actually mention, because our second semifinal match just teed off at 3:45 between Noah Moody and Cameron Crawford, and it's a little later than it normally is because their Cameron Crawford's quarterfinal match went to 23 holes. Ooh. And so it's walking today as well. So he walked 23 holes. Essentially, it's overtime, you could call it. And then he's got to go back out and play a semifinal match. And then in our other match that's now looks like through 6 holes, Bowen Moss, who won our state amateur last year, he plays at Arizona State. He is 2 up through 6 against KJ Ofahengawe, who I want to get this right. I believe I heard that he was maybe transferring to Utah Valley's golf team. I want to say he was at Utah Tech before. So, and then Noah Moody's at Utah State. And so 3 college golfers, and then Cameron Crawford is actually kind of representing the mid-ams. I don't know his exact age, and I don't know if I'd say it live on air anyway, but I've got to guess he's probably mid to upper 30s. So he's holding his own against some of the younger guys.
Okay, there you go. So outside of Cameron, were we kind of expecting these other 3 to be in the mix, and were there any major upsets throughout the tournament?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I think college golfers usually fare pretty well. It's an endurance test as much as it is golf. To be able to win the state am, you got to win, or you're going to play nine rounds in 6 days. So that's why some of the younger players do well. I don't think it's ever a surprise when a college golfer fares well at the state am. I think the easiest upset to point out is our number 1 seed actually lost in his first round match to the 64 seed, which is not incredibly uncommon, which I think kind of shows the depth of the field. On any given day, there's 64 players deep that they could win a match. Kind of speaks to the talent in Utah. Like I said, that's not uncommon. I got to get the year. I think it was 2021. A 63 seed won the state amateur. He was a player out of the University of Utah. And so not uncommon to see some higher seeds win matches. But at this point, yeah, I would say, as you mentioned, Cam Crawford, I think certainly battling with the younger guys. Will be fun to watch him today.
Do any of the other players who place in the top whatever get all? Do they benefit at all with a pathway to a certain tournament, or what? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, do you have to win the tournament to benefit, or if you finish in the top whatever, you actually see some things come your way as well?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Certainly our winner gets the most, but the semifinalists are actually exempt through to the final stage of the U.S. Amateur qualifying. So it's a 2-stage qualifying for, that's really our national championship for amateur players. So they don't have to, they're exempt through that first stage, which is nice. And then what we have in Utah that actually our organization, the Utah Golf Association, maintains is a player performance ranking list. So we give out a bunch of points, and then depending on where you're at on the points list, other invitations come. So yes, I would say indirectly they'll be getting a lot of points from this performance, and then that will essentially lead to other invitations to compete on our traveling teams and other elite events. So there are other pathways, but it's more through a point system than kind of direct like the winners is.
Has a golfer from Utah ever won the National Am?
Yes, you've almost. I feel like you've got to ask both of our friends, Paul Pugmire. He would be able to rattle these off. So off the top of my head, George Von Elm, and we're talking in the 20s and 30s. So yes, the answer is yes. I know that, and I know George Von Elm did. If there's a second one, we might have to get Paul on the next segment to confirm that. I know he would be able to rattle them off.
He would be able to rattle them off and then tell you where they were born and what they like to do when they were 8 years old. So we'll save those questions for Paul. Hey, also we've got the Women's Am coming up as well. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, really equally as excited, for that. That's an awesome event, and we're going to be at Oak Ridge Country Club. So we'll wrap this event up tomorrow. Then we've got a week to prepare for the Women's State Am, and really looking forward to a great field. I think last I looked, we were at 72 players, which is exceptional for that event. Obviously a great site being at Oak Ridge. They're going to be a great host. They've hosted a number of high-level championships for us, and of course had the Corn Ferry event not so long ago. So yeah, we're excited to host that, and got to get through tomorrow, and then we'll kind of turn our attention to that championship.
I believe a very highly rated afternoon sports talk radio show is set to broadcast on site for that event. Let's just hope we don't have power outages downtown, okay?
Yes, we'll cross our fingers, and we're excited to have you on site and get to watch a little golf. It'll be a lot of fun.
All right, buddy, before I say you loose, what do you want our listeners to know about the Utah Golf Association?
Yeah, I would say first, tune in to the final tomorrow. We live stream the State Am final, and so you can go to our Instagram page in the morning, and we'd love to have as many viewers as we can. That would be awesome. And then second, always an invitation to join the UGA. You don't have to be an elite player. We've got handicaps that are +6 that are elites, all the way to a 54 handicap. So you don't have to be elite. A handicap index is for everybody, along with the other benefits that we offer. So you can do that by going to uga.org and clicking the join and renew button.
Thanks, buddy. We'll let you get back to it, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, Spence. Take care.
Easton Folster, the executive director of the Utah Golf Association, the 128th playing of the State Amateur Tournament, is at Soldier Hollow. The semifinals going on right now. And the finals will be tomorrow. Appreciate Easton's time. I want to let you know you can join us at Brighton Resort for the first day of the 2026 Women's Disc Golf Championship. I did not know that was a thing. It is Thursday, July the 16th. Fans can watch the championship live. Just visit our event page on our website for the link, ESPN700sports.com. VIP or general admission tickets available at ESPN700sports.com. Have you ever played disc golf before?
I have. Not, competitively.
You've never played in a competitive disc golf tournament?
No. But it's a thing.
So there's
You're going to be there, by the way.
I'm on remote there. I have a remote for the Women's Disc Golf Championship that day.
It's up at Brighton, so it's pretty.
Okay. What is disc golf? Is it just, are you throwing a Frisbee and trying to get the Frisbee in a hole just like you're doing with a golf ball?
You see those like big chain net looking things?
Yes.
That's the hole.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they're typically on either a golf course or some other big form of open land.
Was Andy Bernard, was he the guy that loved disc golf when he was in college?
Maybe.
There's a disc golf reference that's escaped me. Is this remote on the schedule?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, join us. I'll be on site up at Brighton for the 2026 Women's Disc Golf Championship, Thursday, July the 16th. You can watch it live on our website, or you can check out the website for tickets. Well, I got to adjust the calendar. We'll catch a break. 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Bowler, Craig Bowlerjack, coming up next on ESPN 700. Spain advances to the World Cup semifinal matchup against France in Dallas on Tuesday. Doubleheader tomorrow as the World Cup is reaching its final stages. So we've got one side of the equation set with Spain and France, two of the best teams in the world. And then tomorrow it will be England taking on Norway in Miami. A lot of sunblock needed for that match, both fans and players. And then Argentina-Switzerland is the night game at 7 o'clock in Kansas City. So two quarterfinal matchups tomorrow. The winner of those two teams will match up, I believe, on Wednesday of next week. And then we will have our World Cup final set. RSL will be back from their break before you know it. And if you have not looked at that schedule, they got quite a sprint to the end, because I think the Leagues Cup is coming up. Of course, you've got league play and a designated player spot in their back pocket should they decide to use it. The Utah Jazz have moved to Las Vegas for Summer League. It's okay. Everyone relax. A couple of fun games here at the Huntsman Center where Darren Peterson has looked awesome. And now the team will continue their Vegas experience. No Jazz games tonight. We'll see if they decide to play Ace Bailey the rest of the way. They're going to be in action coming up on Sunday. I believe their next game in Vegas is Sunday. Yes, it is, against the Clippers at 8 o'clock. And you can see it on KJazz, but Amazon Prime is actually televising a lot of these Summer League games if you're looking to watch some NBA basketball. Of course, we saw last night Darren Peterson and A.J. DeBonsa go head-to-head in Las Vegas, the number 1 and number 2 overall pick. Darren had a rough game as far as his efficiency goes. He did miss a lot of open looks. I do think that's a piece of good news if you're looking for a silver lining. 24 points, but 18 shots, 2 of 7 from 3, missed a couple of free throws, 8 turnovers, and only 3 assists after he had 25 and 12 in his last game in Salt Lake before they went to Vegas. We were chatting with Sarah Todd earlier, and she is in Vegas covering this thing for the D News. One of the more fascinating dynamics to me, and Steve Wojciechowski, who's coaching the Summer League team, of course, he's an assistant for Will. Steve was a great college point guard at Duke and was a high-level college head coach, and now he's kind of making his way back through the coaching ranks in a way the way Quinn Snyder did. Spent some time in the D League, and now he's back on an NBA bench. Will, of course, is there. Jazz Brass, of course, in attendance. And when it comes to Summer League, it's so hard to know how much of this is translatable when it's time for the regular season. And I could give you name after name after name of Summer League superstars that we never heard from, and name after name of really good players that just didn't look good in Summer League. So I would just encourage everybody to take a beat here as it pertains to the way you're analyzing Darren specifically. He's going to be awesome. I don't think the only thing that gets in the way of Darren Peterson, like being generationally special, I'm not kidding, is health. That's it. This kid stays healthy. I think he has a chance to be a top 10 player in the league at some point. Now, I always hesitate to just anoint a player as a top 10 guy. Even the guys that you kind of consider top 10 players right now, you hear some of the hot takes thrown out about, oh, this guy's top 10. I always say those names. The names of the players that are top 10 players in the NBA. Another thing people throw around during the draft process is, oh, he's going to be like a 20 and 10 guy. Say the name. Go to Basketball Reference right now. Search players who have averaged 20 points and 10 rebounds. Look at those names, okay? And with Darren, the stat line that had been thrown around is 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. You know how many people do that? I mean, I'm talking about like 10-year vets, let alone rookies. The rookie list, off the top of my head, I think it's Michael Jordan, Luka Doncic, Oscar Robertson, and then randomly it was Tyreek Evans because he played for a really bad Sacramento team where he had the ball in his hands all the time. But Darren has the ball in his hands all the time for this Summer League roster. Now, of course, when he's playing with Keontae and Lowry and Jaren Jackson Jr., I guess Nurkic will be your starting center, Ace Bailey, whatever the rotation looks like. When you're playing for the varsity, as Gordy likes to say, how much usage are they going to give Darren right out of the gates? I can only speak for myself. I hope it's high. As I've said before, of course, now that Walker Kessler is wearing purple and yellow and is an LA Laker, that changes the equation of what the starting lineup can look like. And I'll again speak for myself. I hope Ace starts. I hope Ace starts. I hope Darren starts. And I want to see those two play 30, 32 minutes every night. That's a lot to put on a 19-year-old. They're both 19. It's a lot to put on the plate of a 19-year-old. But their decision-making process, to me, has indicated that they really believe their timeline is built around their two teenagers. If they felt like they were a team that could contend this year, they're matching any offer for Walker, including the one the Lakers made. But they clearly have kind of looked at the hand that they've been dealt, juxtaposed to their peers in the West, and have done some calculation to indicate like we're still probably 3-4 years out. Oklahoma City is starting to make some interesting decisions because they're the only team in the league right now that is above the second apron. It looks like they're going to have to move off of Lou Dort. Okay, they've already made some minor moves, traded some players that they liked, but they had to get some money off the books to make some financial decisions to avoid that second apron. And as of now, they're looking at a $100 million luxury tax penalty. And I would imagine Sam Presti is under some pressure from ownership to make some financial decisions to get them in a better place. They're going to be faced with additional financial decisions that are going to be tough and punitive unless they can get somebody to do what Jalen Brunson did for the Knicks, which is take $113 million less than he was entitled to ask for based off of who he is as an all-league NBA player, all-star. Now, it's going to be interesting to see where, when the lists come out prior to the NBA season, where will all of these outlets have Jalen? Because prior to the start of the playoffs, I think one of the things that kind of cooled people on New York was they don't have Shea, they don't have Wembanyama, they don't have Jason Tatum. They don't have one of those guys that you consider like an all-league type dude. Well, they do now. Now, it's after the fact because Jalen just proved everybody wrong. But in order for a team in pro basketball now to be built to win, and not just win in the interim, but be built to win for a long time, you might have to have your star player be willing to take less the way Jalen did to keep a core together. Victor Wembanyama came out today and said he is currently talking to the Spurs about taking less than he's entitled to make sure this young Spurs core stays together. That is worst case scenario for anyone in the West. If San Antonio can keep, it's not just Wembanyama, it's Castle, it's Harper. I mean, we could go down the list. They've got a De'Aaron Fox problem after the way De'Aaron Fox played in the finals. I think he has like $212 million and like 4 years left on his deal or something. So they got to figure that out. I don't know that's. I mean, the Harper kid's got to play 30 minutes a night moving forward. But if Wembanyama is willing to take less to keep that core together moving forward, that changes the scope of what everybody has to do with their calculation. And that, to me, is the only way that any team can be built, not just to win now, but to be built to win for a long time. Because what the league has done, and I think they're probably going to walk this back. I think they're going to have to during the next round of negotiations, which I think is 29-30, if I remember correctly. Denver's had to make some rough decisions after they won their championship. Look, everyone is critical of what Brad Stevens and the Boston Brass did with Jaylen Brown. Those are smart basketball people. It's not just Brad. That staff has been around in Boston for a long, long time. They know what they're doing. and Paul George and a couple of picks for Jaylen Brown does not feel like enough for a talent like that, it's clear that they're just trying to get off his deal. They're trying to get off his money, his contract. Because while Paul George's contract isn't great either, it's shorter, and you're not going to have to extend him at a ridiculous number. Jalen's still young enough that if he puts 3 more good years together, he's going to be due for another max payday. And if you think Jaylen Brown is that guy, then you pay him the money. But I don't know that he is, as much as I like him. You know, for all the conversation about, hey, finals MVP. And I love Jaylen Brown. I think he's great. That was a really good team. And Jason Tatum, to me, is a superior talent as long as he's healthy than Jaylen Brown. So that's why they make that deal. They're taking some flack for the return, and I get it in a vacuum, but if you pan out and understand the economics of pro basketball, I felt like that was just them getting off his money. So when you bring it back around to what the Wembanyama news means for the Jazz and anyone else, is that if this guy, who is probably the one guy in the NBA that can go to the team and say, I want all of it, I want every cent that I'm due under the guidelines of what I'm able to make based off of who I am. If anyone could do that, it would be Victor Wembanyama. And the fact that he reportedly is willing to not do that is a pretty terrifying thing. And look, you're like, I don't know, man. I don't want to go on a rant on capitalism, but, like if you're able to ask for $220 million, if you're based off who you are in pro basketball, the money your team has to spend, the cap situation that your team is in, and you're willing, you can ask for $20 million, like ask for 180 and you're going to be fine. And then let the team go utilize the rest of the money to go fill out the roster. The mindset, and LeBron has this. He's always said, I'm LeBron James. I don't take a pay cut. He's going to have to if he wants to stay in the NBA now. But the mindset of just scratching and crawling and doing everything you can to get every cent you're due and entitled to, when we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, I just don't get it. You're going to be fine with 150, bro. You're going to make that work. And if you can't make that work, that's a you problem. Let the team utilize the rest of their resources to surround you with good players so you can win. I feel like there are so many players that would rather get paid than win when you can do both and be very, very comfortable. Like we celebrate the 1 or 2 players in the sport that elect to not pressure the team to give them every cent they're entitled to. And while I'm saying this out loud, let me just be very clear. This is agent-driven, okay? It's very rarely player-driven. It's agent-driven because they get paid too. It's how they make their money. So the agent negotiates the deal, pressures the team to write the biggest check possible because the agent doesn't give a rip about the team. The agent only cares about the client. And the client getting paid means the agency gets paid. The only way that a player will take less is if the player sends the message through the agent or the player sends the message to the team, I'm willing to do this. And I think a lot of these guys just show us who they are as far as what they value instead of competition and winning and being part of something exciting and sustainable. They just want the biggest check they can get. And I just think there's a way you can do both if you're willing to live with 180 million instead of 240. You're gonna be able to figure that out. So as the Jazz, I think, have shown with the process they followed, decision-making process that they've kind of outlined, namely the Walker deal. That's the biggest example of what we have in front of us right now. Like I wouldn't be stunned if they traded anybody at this point besides Darren and Ace. And I include Keontae in that list. Darren and Ace, to me, are the pillars. They found 2 pillars. Top 5 picks, 5 a year ago, 2 this year. They're both 19. They both appear to be good kids that are willing to work and want to be coached. And they both have everything you want for the modern-day NBA wing. They've got size. They're built well. They can guard multiple positions. They can get their own offense. They can make plays for others. They can play in a myriad of different ways on both sides of the floor, offense and defense. They can play in transition. They can shoot it from the outside. And Darren has this playmaking ability that I don't think we saw very much at Kansas because Bill Self played him off the ball. Darren actually talked about this last night. He was interviewed after the game. And I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, I feel like myself again. I'm having fun again because I have the ball in my hands. And that's who I am as a basketball player. At Kansas, I was off the ball. He basically alluded to not having a great time playing college basketball in Kansas because he was not used the way he feels like he should be used. And during the draft process, one of the things I found interesting is the messaging that was out there that Darren Peterson, when he sat down with teams at the Combine, and Darren Peterson, when he had his one-on-one meetings with teams, said, I'm a point guard. I'm a facilitator. I want the ball in my hands. That's how I'm most effective, and that's who I am. And to be able to get 12 assists in a summer league game when you're playing with guys that are going to be in China in a year, imagine what he can do when he's passing Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ace Bailey and Keontae George. Like, imagine with his playmaking ability, instead of passing it to Tamar Bates and Orlando Robinson and Trey Alexander, all due respect, he's going to be passing it to elite shot makers that will be able to capitalize on his ability to make plays. That, to me, through 3 summer league games now that we've seen with Darren, I knew he could score. This kid has scored seamlessly and easily since he was 15. I knew he could shoot it. We've seen him do that, again, since he was a teenager. His athleticism has improved year over year over year until he got to Kansas. But if you're not watching high school and AAU basketball because you have a life, congratulations, and you saw him at Kansas, you would have had questions. He's now looking the way he did prior to his 1 year playing at Kansas, where A.J. DeBonsa, playing at BYU, passed him up to become the number 1 overall pick. And I also want to say, like, I don't do the whole thing where you have to pick one or the other. I think A.J. is going to be awesome. We saw A.J. last night really be able to get to the free throw line, 8 free throws, 7 of 8. He's got to work on his jumper. That's not a secret. He didn't shoot it well from 3 in Provo. 0 of 5 from last night. 0 of 5 from 3 last night. Only 1 turnover in 26 minutes. That's hard in Summer League. Like, this is not an anti-AJ conversation at all. I just think Darren's a better player. I thought he was a better player when they were coming up in the high school and AAU ranks. I thought he was a better player during the draft process. I get Washington's desire to draft AJ because they have Trae Young. And if Darren is telling everybody, I'm a ball in hand guy, they just paid Trae Young $212 million, which is wild business, okay? But that's their prerogative. He's their player. And if you have a player that, by all accounts, can be very, very good, and you're the Washington Wizards, you might have to overpay to have him stay. But AJ just fits better with their roster. I know we get into fit and best player, and I always say, just give me the talent, we'll figure it out. But what we're seeing through 3 games, with Darren's ability to see the floor and make the right play and make the right pass and get his teammates involved, that's the thing, to me, that I knew he had a little bit. But you add that to what we all know that he's had forever: elite athleticism, elite shot making, the ability to shoot it from deep, the ability to finish at the rim, the ability to play in transition, the ability to guard multiple positions, switch, take on a player that's quick, then take on a player that's big. We know and have known that he has all that. And what he's showing now is that he also has elite decision-making. That is so exciting, if you're a Jazz fan, to watch what this kid is doing. Yes, it's Summer League. As I said earlier with Sarah Todd, when it comes to Summer League, I'm not overly concerned about a bad performance, and I don't get overly excited about a great performance. You just kind of look for the player's ability to grasp what he's being asked to do within the team ecosystem and concept. And if Steve Wojciechowski, who's coaching the Summer League team, is giving Darren this usage, you have to imagine Will's going to do the same thing. And I hope that he does. Let's throw him into the deep end and have him learn how to swim. Okay, let's finally start the process of having Darren and Ace be 2 of your primary offensive weapons, and then Jaren Jackson Jr., Keontae, Lauri Markkanen, the veterans can help compete because they also need to start to learn how to win. That's the one thing, like, as everyone continues to anoint Keontae as this, that, or whatever, and look, his performance last year is undeniably impressive on offense. He still was a sieve defensively, and if the Jazz win 46, 47 games this year and Keontae averages 22 and 6, I'll completely eat crow. I just need to know what this looks like with Keontae when he's playing on a team that's trying to win games. The NBA highway is littered with bodies of stat stuffers, looters in a riot, as they say. 20-point per game guys for teams that won 18 games. That's not it really. Almost anyone can do that. That's good enough to be a pro. We saw Cody a few times last year drop like 28 or whatever. If you're good enough to be an NBA player and you land with a team that's unserious about competing and they're going to give you an opportunity to score and you can shoot 20 to 25 shots a night, you're going to put up 20, 22 points. I'm not diminishing the work Keontae has put in. I'm not diminishing the reputation he has with his coaches and teammates. They love him. He's a worker. He's always working. He's always in the gym. I mean, Will Hardy must have had a come-to-Jesus moment with him at the end of last season, prior to that off season, where he said, look, you have to decide if you want to be serious about your craft because you're one bad year away from potentially going to play in Europe. And Keontae answered the bell. This year for Cody is the same thing. It's time for Cody Williams to decide if he wants to be not just an NBA player on the end of the bench. He's never going to be his brother. It's an unfair thing. J-Dub is an all-star. He's awesome. He's an NBA champion. He dropped a 40-piece in an NBA Finals game. He's never going to be that. So let's put that aside. That's unfair anyway. Can Cody do this year at least a little bit of what Keontae did last year? Will he have the same opportunity for a team that's actually trying to win basketball games this year? But if you have decided as an organization, okay, the cost analysis with Walker, the value play with the picks in return, we're going to trade him to the Lakers, and you're going with Yusuf Nurkic and Mo Bamba and Jackson Hayes as your three-headed center, you're telling your fan base, we don't think we're in a place to compete with the big boys this year. And if we're honest, they're not. I know some of the expectations has been wild in some circles of our media here locally, which isn't that surprising. But if that's the message you're sending and you're telling all of us, we think we have two potential star players with the two players we picked in the past two drafts, Ace at 5, Darren at 2, I want to see both of them starting. I want to see both of them playing 30-plus minutes, and I want to see Darren with the ball in his hands and to see what that looks like. Because through 3 games, he has been the best player in the Summer League ecosystem. I don't know what we're going to see the rest of the way because there's also part of me that's like, hey, shut him down. Let's go ahead and not play him the rest of Summer League. Like there is way too much at stake here with how exciting it's been and how good he appears to be. Like, we've seen enough. Okay, we got it. He understands what you're asking of him. He's doing what you want your top 2 pick to do in Summer League. Like, the only bad sign in Summer League is when your vets or your top 10 picks aren't dominating. That's where you kind of go, well, wait a second. If they can't handle this level of competition, we got a long way to go before we can play them in the regular season. And then, of course, the light at the end of the tunnel that we probably won't see anytime soon is a deep playoff run. The gap from Summer League to the regular season is very big, of course, but the gap to from the regular season to the postseason, it might even be bigger as far as what you have to do in those scenarios to beat the best teams in the league 4 times in 7 tries and go on the road and win playoff games on the road. It's like what Wembanyama did in Oklahoma City to close that series out. That's when everybody was like, all right, this he's here. He's not coming. He's here. Of course, the Knicks got in the way because they caught a buzzsaw. They caught a heater. They figured it out at the right time, and they won the championship. But they had a couple of playoff runs of their own before they actually crack the thing. So we are seeing kind of seeds being planted as of now, and the fruits of this labor probably won't manifest for 3 or 4 years, but at least we're starting to see what this thing looks like and how it's crystallizing. And I love A.J. DeBonsa, but I think the Jazz have the best player in the NBA draft. All right, we will catch a quick break, but before we do that, let's get you a quick leaderboard, a little PGA Tour action. I want to let you know that the 128th playing of the Utah State Amateur is going on right now, the amateur tournament up at Soldier Hollow. Uinta Golf PGA Tour leaderboard, serving Utah since 1971. Club fitting, hitting bays, experienced pros, and the latest on ping. Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade, and more. Get there. Scotty Scheffler missed the cut at the Genesis Scottish Open. It's the first cut Scotty has missed in 4 years, which is quite a streak. They are through 2 rounds. All the players are in the clubhouse. Jordan Smith, Tom Kim, Rory McIlroy are your leaders at 9 under par. Matt Fitzpatrick and Minwoo Lee are at 8 under. The low American right now is Chris Gotterup coming off a win. He's at 7 under par today. Shout out to our good friends at Uinta Golf. All right, we'll catch a break. Coming up next, a little sports score with our friends from Handy and Handy. We'll get to the 5 o'clock hour of the show, and we will say goodnight at 6 on ESPN 700. It is Sports Court time. We do it every Thursday right about now with our good friends from Handy and Handy. Preston flying solo today. Is that because Garrett is at a soccer match? What's going on?
I know we almost had the team back together yesterday, but Garrett has a little weekend vacation that he took off. He was taken off right after Sports Court was scheduled to go yesterday, but we had the power challenges or whatever we heard, and so we're doing it today.
There you go. Well, I appreciate your time, so let's get to it. The new eligibility rule that we've talked about, legal battles will follow, and one has actually been filed in Ohio. Chendall Weaver is his name, from Texas. What's going on here?
So we talked about this when it hit a few weeks ago, that the NCAA, as we know, and they've been sued numerous times over the last few years, all in these eligibility fights. These eligibility fights grow out of players that know it's not because of their love of college life or campus life. It's their love of wanting to have an extra year of eligibility to earn NIL money and to showcase their talents. So there's been all of these eligibility fights. So the NCAA, a few weeks ago, the board passed a deal where they put in a new eligibility rule. It used to be you have 5 years to play 4. Well, they came in with this rule that said you got 5 years to play 5. Some of the nuances were no red shirts. It begins after you enroll or after your 19th birthday. And one of the problems with it was, or one of the rules in it was that the class of 2022, who just ended their eligibility in 2026, the spring of 2026, did not get a 5th year. Well, we've seen all these eligibility fights, and the recipe, the formula has been that they file an antitrust case claiming that there's unfair competition, that they are being denied the ability to compete under antitrust rules. And the first thing they do is they file for a request for a preliminary injunction, which basically says, okay, NCAA, you have a rule here, and you should be enjoined from enforcing that rule until we can hammer out the rules or the lawsuit in antitrust. And the NCAA has lost a lot of these, and so they thought they were getting ahead of this, but anytime you put in a rule, what happens is there are some who are excluded and they're adversely affected by the rule. So when this came in, we talked about a few weeks ago that there were lawsuits lining up, and it was going to be a massive multi-million-dollar legal fight. And there have been several filed, and the one that we're going to kind of focus on right now is there were 24 women's and men's basketball players in Ohio, state of Ohio, that jumped on this, and they filed their lawsuit, and their claims were that they filed for a preliminary injunction. Their claims were that they were being unfairly excluded from getting a 5th year and from competing, and also that it was unfair and arbitrary. They came in and said this unjustifiably restrains their ability to earn money through use of name, image, and likeness connected to their work. So they came in, and then a ruling came out today, actually, that the Ohio court ruled and granted the preliminary injunction. And we've talked about this most recently in the Sorsby case, where to get a preliminary injunction, you need to show that there will be irreparable harm. And I think, it's fair that these athletes could show that they wouldn't get a 5th year and couldn't earn the NIL money, and also that you will succeed on the merits down the road, that if this went to trial and your antitrust claims, that you would succeed on it. And the judge came back here and said, yeah, I'm going to grant the preliminary injunction. He was pretty critical of this new rule and came in and said that the application of the eligibility rule to 2022 high school graduates was arbitrary and capricious. Judges love the arbitrary and capricious verbiage. So, now one thing the NCAA came in, and I didn't understand this. I thought the NCAA should have seen this coming, and they did, and they probably should have granted, I thought they should have granted the class of 2022 that 5th year, but their argument was, and it kind of makes sense, they're saying, hey, wait a minute, we've got all of these new freshmen coming in, and, there needs to be space. There needs to be roster spots for them. And so they said the effect of this ruling will be to take away valuable participation opportunities for these new eligible athletes coming in. So they've lost it, and by reports now, there's been a Texas one filed, a Tennessee, a North Carolina, a Georgia one filed, and so they're just going to go one after the other. And as we've seen in the eligibility fights, not all of the courts rule in favor of the athletes, but most of them have. So kind of going to see what happens here. But I understand probably kind of the NCAA's position. They had to cut it off at some point, and what happens when you have all these freshmen coming in expecting to play and have a spot, and there's no roster spot.
I have never heard of Ursuline College or Gannon University until today, and I did not know that some colleges are merging to handle just kind of the new higher education landscape, fewer students, diminished tuition and such, and now it's sparking some lawsuits. What's going on here?
Yeah, that's right. I'd never heard of colleges merging, and everyone knows it's not BYU and Utah, but it's what do we call it? Ursuline College and Gannon University, and they've merged to become Ursuline College and Gannon University College Campus, something like that. And as you mentioned, Spence, what motivated this was the, I guess, reduced revenue through tuition, through housing, through meal plans, and also they've cited federal funding as being something that has kind of diminished their revenue. But what happened was they got together and they're going to be known by one name. But the thing they wanted to do is Ursuline said, hey, we want to continue to compete separately as athletic programs. So, because they said that we get a benefit from that. We give more student athletes a chance to play. There is revenue from that. And so their conference, which is the Midwestern, the GMAC, let's call it the GMAC, they came in and said, hold the phone, Ursuline. You guys are one college now, and you don't get to do that. So now Ursuline and Gannon together have sued the GMAC, claiming that it violates the bylaws of the conference. Their claims are that they're unfairly being excluded. They have complied with the bylaws. They don't see a violation, that there are no other opportunities, and they also claim that it violates Title IX. Well, the conference has come in and said, no, we haven't breached the bylaws. We're in compliance with it. And this is something I learned. We know that Title IX applies to schools that get federal funding, that there can't be gender discrimination. Well, the conference came in and said, yeah, schools are subject to these rules, but conferences are not subject to Title IX requirements. It's just the individual schools. So we'll see where this goes. Pretty interesting situation here.
I don't know that I'd ever heard of soccer hooligans beating up a player of a club they cheered for, but that's what we have here. And this Serbian soccer player was trying to gain asylum in the U.S., and that has been denied. What's the latest here?
Yeah, this one's crazy. When I saw it, I thought, an immigration thing. Well, in honor of the World Cup that's been going on the last several weeks and has held the captive the attention of the world, we're going to talk about a football player, but it has nothing to do with the World Cup. This is our guy, Bojan Andrić, who's a Serbian soccer player. Well, 10 years ago, the club he was playing for, apparently Bojan wasn't playing very well, and one night after a game, some hooligans, they're known as the Red Devils, they're really big fans of the team he played for, they followed him home and beat him to a pulp. A skull fracture, a concussion, facial burns. They weren't happy with how he's playing, and they weren't happy with the contract that he had. And so they continued to harass him. He wanted to leave the team, but they continued to harass him, pursue him, and he tried to get away from it. And ultimately, he jumped and came to the United States seeking asylum. And this happened almost 10 years ago, and he sought asylum. Well, it came to the immigration board recently and the immigration courts, and the standard for immigration, didn't know this, was that you got asylum if you were part of a special group, meaning a political group, or a race, a religion, a group. It has to identify a group, and the immigration court came down and said, no, you're not part of this group, so they denied his request for asylum, and so it goes up on appeal, and the appellate court was even a little more critical of this, and basically said Serbian soccer players who are victims of violence, it's not part of a group. Just because you weren't playing well, you don't get to be part of this group. So he has been denied asylum. Guess he's going to be shipped back to Serbia. Hope the Red Devils aren't sitting there waiting for him, because maybe they've forgotten about him during this time. I don't think he's playing soccer anymore.
It's downright horrifying. Jeez.
Yeah.
You thought college football fans were crazy. All right, a former Arizona guard has been charged with wire fraud in a $2 million fraud scheme. This will be our last one for today. What's going on here, Preston?
Yeah, we wanted to hit on, athletes doing bad things, and we got our one here. And not only athlete, but an athlete I've never, ever heard of. This is former Arizona Wildcat. His name is Kerr Carissa. Apparently, he was recruited by Mark Pope at BYU at one point, I learned. Anyway, he's been charged with 5 counts of wire fraud in a $2.2 million fraud scheme. Crazy. He devised a scheme to get money from 2 victims using false representations, fabricated identities, deceptive communications. The best one that he did was all aimed at these 2. He said that he posed as his mother, requesting that the victims pay for his alleged cancer treatments. So now the FBI is looking into it. There's been the charges. Now the FBI has to look into it and determine if they send it to the U.S. Attorney's Office to prosecute. So that's our last story today. Interesting one.
Yeah, indeed. All right, Preston, for any of our listeners who have any legal questions, how can they get a hold of you over at Handy and Handy?
Yeah, we love coming on here, Spence, talk about these legal issues. We'd love to hear from any of the folks out there listening that we can help. We're a personal injury law firm, help people that have been involved in accidents. Call us at 801-264-6677 or visit our website at handylawutah.com. Love to hear from you.
Thank you, my friend. Have an excellent weekend. And, of course, as always, go Utes.
Go Utes. Thanks, Spence.
We've got some weird breaking news before we catch a break.
Yes, we do.
Are you seeing this? The Bam stuff?
Yeah. Heat culture.
So according to Sham Sharania, Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero got into a physical altercation in Las Vegas on Friday in which Adebayo struck Tyler Hero. Now, Hero obviously has been traded as part of the Giannis deal.
Right.
I'm trying to think how this went down.
I like how they worded it because, on its face, yes, maybe there was an altercation. It sounds like Tyler Hero might have got his ass kicked.
Yeah,
unless he's a scrapper.
Well, no, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Bam probably could handle Tyler Hero.
That's what I was getting at.
Tyler Hero's like your size.
Right, and Bam Adebayo is not.
My size. No. No, Bam's a big dude. If you ever seen Bam up close, and he's rock solid.
I was going to say, he's not only like close to 7 feet tall, he is like a well-built 6'10" or so. So
I guess we'll follow this story.
Apparently, Tyler Hero went on a podcast and said some stuff about Bam right after the trade, or was quoted in a story or something, and Bam didn't take lightly to it, apparently.
Ooh, we've got more. The altercation occurred at a practice court in a Las Vegas hotel this morning. It started when Adebayo approached Hero about comments the guard made critiquing the center on social media after their 7-year run in Miami ended. I need video of this.
Yeah, where's the TMZ Draymond Green? It reminds me a little bit.
Video.
Didn't Jordan Poole call Draymond Green a backpack?
He did, which is hilarious, by the way. That was, and Draymond popped him good, so I'm sure Jordan wishes he didn't say that. But the funniest part about that entire thing is Jordan Poole calling Draymond Green Steph Curry's backpack.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny.
Yeah, they both got a good shot in on that one.
Now there's video circulating of Tyler Hero doing an interview after the altercation and after the Heat game last night. Does not look like he has a black eye. Does not look like he's scraped up. Yeah, I'm going to go Team Bam on this one. Yeah. Huh. Interesting. So according to multiple sources, Bam Adebayo punched Tyler Hero on a practice court in a hotel. Huh. Interesting. All right. Well, that was not the NBA offseason news I was expecting. Still waiting for the LeBron domino to fall.
LeBron, of course, the league, the association has a few things apparently on the side burner.
Huh? Oh, the Kawhi stuff?
I'm glad that there's a pause on that trade because there has to be. You cannot allow the Clippers to allegedly circumvent the cap in the way that they have and then gain a bunch of assets for the player in which they did so. And you definitely can't do it in a way where the wealthiest owner in the league, who is a tech buddy, a longtime, I don't want to say friend, but a longtime associate of Adam Silver and Steve Ballmer, trading that player to the Raptors, the team who was most aggrieved by this process in the first place, and their owner, Larry Tannenbaum, who is the chairman of the board of the NBA governors, who will have a say in the punishment for said cap circumvention. You just can't. You can't. The NBA would be in a really bad position, both optically and I think with some, perceptions. And I just think that you have to get in the way of that. And I still think that, with everything that's public, like, come out and say something. Adam Silver has declined to do so in any which way. I know I'm heavy on this one, but I think it's like a genuinely huge moment for the National Basketball Association.
You've been listening to a lot of Pablo Torre Finds Out, haven't you?
I do listen to when it's about this situation. I definitely have been tuning in. He also did one on that that mentalist guy. You've seen the O's.
Oh yeah.
O's the mentalist.
Yeah.
And just completely exposed him for kind of being a skeevy fraudster. Talented. And he actually is a mentalist, but the tactics he uses are, I don't know.
Yeah, if Pablo Torre calls, just send it to voicemail.
I would, yeah.
That dude is coming for you. So, interesting. Dave McMahon. Dave's Twitter game.
I love it.
I love our guy. Here's Dave's tweet after quote tweeting Sham's tweet. A player seeing the news on his phone as he walked out of the NBA meeting that had just ended in Vegas on Friday afternoon. Quote, that doesn't seem like a fair fight.
Yes.
Thanks, Dave. Is Dave McMiniman behind Magic Johnson's Twitter account?
No. I want to know who is, though.
And by the way, what about the NBA saying Keontae can't coach a summer league game for cap circumvention?
Right.
What?
Right. That's what you're going to come down very sternly on. You're going to say, nope, we got to stop there. We got to draw a line there. A player, an active player who is volunteering, no compensation. Yeah, the CBA says compensation or experience, right? When you really go down into the fine print of what that's talking about, but he's an employee of the team. Why can he not be involved on the bench? That to me is the NBA worrying about small fries while they have a lot of other things that they could be paying attention to.
By the way, go ahead.
Yeah, on top of that, a couple of former Jazz players in the last couple of weeks indicted to add on top of their gambling situation issues. So, maybe just let Keontae George call a few plays.
Yeah, that's weird. It's getting in the way of what could be just a fun thing. I mentioned this earlier. Wembanyama has decided on the 25% maximum instead of the 30% maximum. So he could have asked for $303 million, and he's landed on $252. So he left about $70 million on the table.
Yes, but also since that, I've also seen some reports that he might be considering even less than the $250. So I don't know what to believe there. We'll see when he, of course, signs that extension. But we've talked about it a lot, man. The first superstar who is willing to take a massive, and not even a Jalen Brunson style. Jalen still got paid essentially a max contract, but the first, and his dad works for the team, right? There's compensation around the Brunson family household there. The first superstar who really takes a pay cut and says, I just want to go win, and builds a legitimate super team, they may have a pretty pretty cool window and maybe change the market a little bit.
And the fact that it's this dude, I mean, he's the one guy that could be like, give me all of it.
Right.
And they'd have to. I think it's pretty cool. All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. 5 o'clock hour of the show on a Friday is next on ESPN 700. Well, I, for one, am ready for the weekend. It was a weird week. Big 12 media days, Tuesday and Wednesday in Dallas. Back-to-back days of, 8 hours of radio? Is that what we did? I don't even remember.
It was a little under 8. But yeah, that's a marathon on air.
Yeah, for sure. What was it like back here? Was it I couldn't get a vibe from you because I couldn't see you. Was it chaos back here?
A little bit, but at this point, I've produced enough radio that I can push buttons pretty quick. I can edit pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just pushing out a bunch of interviews, bunch of content, and letting you guys kind of do your thing back there. Because that's the thing, I couldn't really do much from back here.
Yeah.
Right? I could text and be like, hey, Bruce, get on the radio.
Yeah.
But that was about it.
Did you text Bruce to get on with us?
Oh yeah, I made sure he was hanging around.
What a nice kid.
Truly, like a gem. And that's just an example of his family. His parents are awesome people.
Is it Mitchell?
Yes.
Bruce Mitchell, offensive lineman, BYU, all Big 12 first team. NFL player too, right? He's gonna be playing on Sundays.
I believe so. I've been saying so for a long, long time. So I would hope selfishly that comes to fruition, but I also would not be surprised at all.
Have you been nice to him? Order.
As an adult, yes. As teenagers,
you picked on him as a kid?
Oh yeah, but he got too big for me to pick on real quick.
Yeah, that's a big boy. Well, I hope you've been nice to him because maybe at some point you could run his foundation or something.
We used to. I think he mentioned the hoops in the yard. We hung a mini basketball hoop in their barn, and it got physical.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 8, 9, 10 years old, but it got to the point where I couldn't really hold my own against that kid.
I'm having visions of the Bruce Mitchell Oakley Demolition Derby / rodeo.
Rodeo family for sure.
Nice.
They actually, like, not to dox anybody, but are neighbors, I guess, of the rodeo. And yeah, his father is like one of those. When you think of like a real cowboy, this is a guy who still lives in the late 1800s. I love it.
Oh, it's like that. Very nice.
Like
There's
around town on a buggy, not a car.
Okay. There's a video that surfaced of sea lions chasing people off a beach. What's the most dangerous animal to run into in the wild?
That's a good question. Around here, like you'd think a predator, right? You'd think it would be a bear or a mountain lion. Really, the one you don't want to run into if you are in this area is like a mama moose.
Oh,
they do more damage than anything.
Yeah.
I honestly, the most dangerous is probably going to be venomous snakes. There's a lot of rattlesnakes out
Okay,
here.
stay away from the rattlesnakes. When it's this hot, is it more dangerous?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, not necessarily more dangerous, but a couple things here. They get out. They love hanging out on the rocks. They're basking in the sun, if you will. And also, when it's so hot, your blood moves quicker, right? Your blood is really pumping. So if you get bit by a snake, a venomous snake, it's pumping poison through your blood. It's actually more dangerous if it's hot. So just a
little PSA to sign off for a Friday. Watch out for snakes. It's going to be hot over the weekend. Hopefully you guys have something fun planned to get out of the heat, maybe up in the mountains. That will do it for us. Porter, what's coming up on a Monday show?
Monday edition of the program. Our buddy Matt Brown stops by. Of course, plenty to discuss in the business world of college football. Pablo Mastroeni talking some World Cup, talking RSL back in action against Burnley, of course, their next matchup. We'll chat with Mark Harlan and Matt Webb on the latest on the Hill, and we'll go from there on a Monday edition of The Drive.
There you go. So join us for that. We will say goodnight. Special thank you today to Tony Parks, Sarah Todd, and Easton Folster, and Preston from Handy and Handy, a little sports court action as well. For any of the sound you may have missed from the show, website is ESPN700sports.com. Check out the mobile app and take us on the go. Then check out the podcast page. 2 podcast pages for you. On the Reality Check with Spence Checketts side, it is the aforementioned Mark Harlan and Matt Webb this week. Next week, it will be Steve Starks, the CEO of the LHM Sports Group, and also The Drive with Spence Checketts for this show. If you missed any of it, he's Porter. I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have an excellent weekend. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Take some downtime. Take care of yourself. Talk to you on Monday right here on ESPN 700.